Chapter 1845. The old hooligan's eyes widened as he looked at the end of the ancient road. He had asked Lin Tian to try his best to get the world seed, but he did not expect Lin Tian to really get it. The King of Chaos's face was cold, and his eyes were filled with coldness. He stared at the depths of the ancient road and strode towards it. "You're ignoring me again!" The old hooligan's divine consciousness was focused on the depths of the ancient road. At the same time, he attacked and continued to stop the King of Chaos. He curled his lips and said, "The world seed has already been taken. What can you do there?" The King of Chaos's eyes were cold. He did not say anything, but the chaotic light outside his body became even more intense. Boom! The entire space shook, and the murderous aura was terrifying. At the end of the ancient road, the chaotic space that enveloped the world seed crumbled into pieces, turning into shocking light that flowed continuously into the seed. In an instant, the light emitted by the world seed became even more shocking. Everything within a radius of 10 feet was enveloped by this light. Lin Tian was also enveloped by this divine light. He felt his body become extremely heavy, as if he was filled with lead. He could not move at all. However, at the same time, he also felt very comfortable. His essence, energy, spirit, and other aspects were becoming stronger at a very shocking speed. Buzz! Gradually, the divine light became denser and more terrifying. Everything in this space was enveloped by a layer of divine light. Heaven and earth began to shake. The world seed jumped in front of Lin Tian. In the next moment, the world seed trembled. It was surrounded by the Tao radiance outside Lin Tian's body. It was forcefully pulled into Lin Tian's body, causing Lin Tian to tremble again. Then, the light and Tao radiance on his body became even denser. The ancient road was instantly filled with divine lights. It entered his body. He really took that thing? Whooshing Crocodile and the others had thought that Lin Tian would be able to obtain the world seed. However, when they saw the world seed enter Lin Tian's body, they couldn't help but be shocked. After all, this world seed was not ordinary. It was said that it could nurture a power more terrifying than order. Since ancient times, countless geniuses had tried to obtain it but failed. But now, Lin Tian had obtained it. This guy is simply... And Yao Yao's eyes flickered. Even Lin Tian couldn't help but be surprised. Before he came here, he didn't think that he could take the world seed away. Even if he could, he thought that it would take a lot of effort. He didn't expect that he would be able to obtain the world seed so easily. He didn't need to use any effort at all. This caused him, who had a firm heart, to involuntarily feel a little excited at this time. At the same time, strands of strange light appeared in his eyes. "Then wait for the Tao," he muttered to himself. He could feel that the reason why he could get close to the world seed so easily and then resonate with it so that it floated into his body was completely related to his nameless Tao law. This caused him to be even more shocked by the nameless Tao law that he didn't understand at all. It was simply too extraordinary. Buzz! Divine light surrounded and intertwined as the world seed entered his body. It was like a light spot moving around in his body. After dozens of breaths, it came to the side of his life origin. After that, it stopped moving. Only strands of world origin light gushed out from the world seed and entered every corner of his body. In an instant, Lin Tianji felt that his essence, energy, and spirit were becoming stronger at an even faster speed. His cultivation level was close to that of a half-step heavenly god. Moreover, his flesh and bones were also becoming stronger rapidly at this time. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. After dozens of breaths, the world seed stopped beside his life origin and completely merged with him. At the same time, a majestic force surged out from his body. At this moment, he forcefully stepped into the half-step heavenly god realm. At this time, his cultivation level had advanced to the half-step heavenly god realm. However, he didn't pay too much attention to it. His consciousness had always been focused on the world seed beside his life origin. As this thing merged into his body, he felt even more how extraordinary it was. It was really too vast. Good! His eyes were shining brightly, mixed with unconcealable excitement. Because at this time, he was indeed very happy. The world seed, he had obtained it. In the future, he could use his divine power to nurture this world seed, turning it into a real world that was countless times more vast than the celestial realm. Moreover, it was possible that it could nurture a power that was even more powerful than order. How could he not be excited? Boom! Suddenly, heaven and earth shook again, and the space collapsed. Chaotic light surged. At this time, the King of Chaos rushed here, his entire body surging with chaotic light. His eyes fell on Lin Tianji, and he directly grabbed at Lin Tianji. Old Chaos, I already said that your opponent is this old man. The old hooligan arrived in a flash and slapped at the King of Chaos. At the same time, he said to Lin Tian, "Now, boy, you really surprised this old man. You actually got it. I'm just lucky." Lin Tianji said so, and he was also on guard against the King of Chaos. At the same time, Bai Ziki and the others were also looking at the King of Chaos warily. After all, this was a peak divine emperor. Even though there was an old hooligan here, they were still nervous. The King of Chaos's gaze fell on Lin Tianji. He avoided the old hooligan's palm strike and once again grabbed at Lin Tianji. His 5 fingers opened together, forming a heaven and earth prison, and his aura was oppressive. Lin Tianji immediately felt an extremely great pressure. His internal organs became cold, and he quickly retreated. At the same time, the old hooligan also took action. He also used a great ability to meet the King of Chaos's heaven and earth prison. Old Chaos, you really dare to continue to attack this boy? Are you not afraid of provoking that person from more than 10 years ago? The old hooligan said. The King of Chaos's eyes were cold. He did not respond at all, and an even stronger killing light surged out. More than 10 years ago, the aura that suddenly rushed out between heaven and earth was indeed very terrifying. Although it was only a half-step divine emperor, it made his heart tremble. He knew very well that he was definitely not a match for the person who could emit such a terrifying aura. He could only be defeated and die. He was indeed very afraid. However, compared to that fear, he was more concerned about the world seed at this time. He had tried to take the world seed in the past, but he could not. But now, Lin Tianji had taken the world seed. He only needed to refine Lin Tianji and possess him, and then he would be able to control the world seed. In fact, he had sent the 10 chaotic divine children to enter the ancient road in the hope that one of them would be able to obtain the world seed. Then, he would seize the physical body of the person who obtained the world seed. Immediately, the world seed would belong to him, and his strength would undergo a tremendous change in a very short period of time. Now, the world seed was taken by Lin Tianji. As long as he suppressed Lin Tianji and seized Lin Tianji's physical body, he would be able to control the world seed. Then, in the future, he would comprehend a power stronger than the order. At that time, he would not need to be afraid of that person. Boom! Chapter 1846. The chaotic light converged into a large river with stars revolving around it. The aura it emitted was extremely powerful and frightening. Lin Tian's scalp went numb. This was the king territory of the chaotic immortal river. The King of Chaos actually used this king territory to suppress him. A king's domain executed by a peak god emperor primal chaos body was truly terrifying. His divine soul was trembling intensely. In just an instant, before the chaotic immortal river could press down on him, his body was directly imprisoned. The chaotic immortal river nurtured the powerful will of the King of Chaos to suppress him. With his current realm, he couldn't withstand it at all. I've already said that your opponent is me. You want to suppress me and seize the world seed? No way. The old hooligan snorted. Divine power surged, and a hazy divine shadow appeared behind him. He directly slapped the chaotic immortal river that the King of Chaos summoned. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Lin Tian. His tone was very solemn. Kid, hurry up and leave this place immediately. As he said this, he looked into the distance through the void with a hint of seriousness in his eyes. Then, he raised his hand. In the process of fighting with the King of Chaos, he shattered the void here with a slap, creating a huge void door. Go! Let the world seed take root and germinate as soon as possible. He transmitted his voice to Lin Tian again. Then, he wrapped Lin Tian in the God Emperor level light and threw him into the void door. Others can leave, but not him. A cold voice sounded. In the distant sky, a light figure walked over. His entire body was surrounded by divine light, and he directly shattered the world door opened by the old hooligan. The light figure walked closer and directly raised his hand to grab Lin Tian. Lin Tian was immediately moved. This person was Sakura. He suddenly understood why the old hooligan was suddenly a little anxious and personally sent him away. It turned out that after the King of Chaos, Sakura had also come and was sensed by the old hooligan. A huge light hand shook and slapped towards Lin Tian. The aura of a peak emperor god was surging. Old man! Behind the old hooligan, the divine shadow that was condensed previously became even stronger. Its aura was monstrous as it faced Sakura. With a whoosh, Sakura's divine hand was immediately shattered. However, Sakura's expression didn't change. He was still cold. Back then, I did not manage to obtain the Order Heavenly Crystal. Today, I must obtain the World Seed. Disher Tian's voice was cold. With a rumbling sound, the aura he emitted became even more powerful. It was terrifying to the extreme. He released the divine light to suppress the old hoodlum, while simultaneously grabbing towards Lin Tian. The World Seed belongs to me, the King of Chaos said coldly. While he was fighting the old hooligan with Wan Yu, the light of chaos vibrated and he raised his hand to grab Lin Tian. Seize it with your own ability, Sakura said. Although he belonged to the same camp as the Primal Chaos King, under certain circumstances, they still had to compete. It was impossible for them to give in to each other. The Primal Chaos King coldly snorted and attacked even more fiercely. The two God Emperor auras surged toward the old hooligan and toward Lin Tian at the same time, causing the void in all directions to tremble. You two old farts! The old hooligan ground his teeth. Divine light surged from his entire body as he forcibly shattered the divine power that the King of Chaos and King of Chaos were using to suppress Lin Tian. He forcefully intercepted the King of Chaos and King of Chaos. With a rumbling sound, the divine powers of the three great God Emperor level powerhouses clashed as if they were going to annihilate everything. Lin Tian started to worry. He had already obtained the World Seed. He had reached the half-step Heavenly God realm, but the gap between him and the King of Chaos and Sakura was too obvious. He couldn't block them at all. Although the old hooligan was very strong, fighting two peak God Emperors at the same time wasn't a good situation. If this continued, he would definitely be in danger. Brat, what are you still standing there for? While I'm holding them back, quickly run away and leave this place. The old hooligan fought the King of Chaos and Sakura while saying to Lin Tian, The World Seed can't be lost. At this time, he was holding back the King of Chaos and Sakura by himself. He was already unable to send Lin Tian and the others away. Lin Tian's expression changed as he said, The World Seed can't be lost. At this time, it was the first time he saw the old hooligan so solemn. This made him even more aware of the importance of the World Seed that he had obtained. It actually made the old hooligan so serious. At this moment, he nodded seriously. While the old hooligan was holding back the King of Chaos and Sakura, he directly called out to Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, and the others to escape from the ancient road. The King of Chaos and Sakura's eyes became even colder at the same time. They attacked together and suppressed Lin Tian across space. At the same time, almost at the same time, in the distant sky, several God Emperor level auras appeared continuously. 3 figures appeared one after another and crossed over here at the same time. Don't leave, stay, one of them said coldly. With a rumble, the aura of life and death surged. The people who came attacked. Endless light of life and death pressed down on Lin Tian. Life and death law? Holy King Lin Zhuan! Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed. At the same time, when he saw the other 2 people, his expression became even worse. They were obviously Grand Supreme and the Netherworld King. These ancient existences had actually all come here. Moreover, this time, they seemed to be in their real bodies. Whooshing Crocodile also recognized them as he had seen them before. His expression also changed. "This is troublesome." At the same time, Baiziki and the others also changed their expressions. In the blink of an eye, so many God Emperors appeared here. Their intentions were obviously all for Lin Tian. They wanted to suppress Lin Tian and seize Lin Tian's physical body to obtain the World Seed. That ant back then actually had the ability to obtain the World Seed here. "I really misjudged him," Grand Supreme said coldly. He had seen Lin Tian before and was not surprised that Lin Tian had escaped from the no-emptiness domain. This was because he did not see the scene when Lin Tian fell into the no-emptiness domain. After all, after he burned his incarnation, he only enveloped Wu Yi. After that, the consciousness of the divine transformation realm directly disappeared. Endless divine light intertwined and surrounded his body, pressing down on Lin Tian. The aura was terrifying and powerful. Almost at the same time, the Netherworld King also made his move. The Netherworld light rolled and pressed down on Lin Tian. Suddenly, the aura of 5 peak God Emperors surged. The entire place shook violently. The old thug was shocked. For the first time, he turned pale and tried his best to stop them. However, it was obviously impossible for him to stop 5 God Emperors of the same level at the same time. He could not do it. The monstrous divine power of the God Emperors reached Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. In an instant, Lin Tian could not move at all. Only a gust of cold air surged from every part of his body. The feeling of death was unprecedentedly strong. "Be gentle to other people's disciples." Suddenly, a calm voice sounded. Without a sound, a man in a white robe appeared in front of Lin Tian. Faint divine light intertwined around his body. Chapter 1847. A faint voice floated in the air. A man appeared silently in front of Lin Tian. He was tall and handsome. Faint divine light intertwined around his body. In an instant, the divine light that the King of Chaos and the others were using to suppress Lin Tian was shattered. Everyone was shocked. "Who's that?" The King of Chaos, the Nether King, and the others could not help but stop fighting with the old gangster. All of them looked at the man in the white robe. The old gangster was naturally shocked. The King of Chaos, the Nether King, and the other peak Emperor gods unleashed powerful divine power at the same time. However, they were all shattered in the blink of an eye. Moreover, he did not notice how the man in the white robe appeared at all. This shocked him. At the same time, Lin Tian's expression changed. Although the man in the white robe in front of him had his back facing him at this moment, he remembered that familiar aura very clearly. It was also at this moment that the man turned around and pressed one hand on Lin Tian's head. He rubbed Lin Tian's head randomly and messed up Lin Tian's hair. "Boy, did you miss me, your master?" "Yes." Lin Tian nodded immediately without any hesitation. All these years, he had really missed the man in front of him. This was his master. An old drunkard was the person he respected the most in his life. At this moment, an old drunkard suddenly appeared. He was surprised and happy. At the same time, behind him, Whooshing Crocodile, Ling Yun, and the others were also shocked. They did not expect Lin Tian's master to suddenly appear here. They knew how powerful Lin Tian's master was. "This is Boy Lin's master, the man who is known as a genius." White Tiger and Ni Yao Yao were also shocked. Although they had not seen an old drunkard with their own eyes, they had heard Lin Tian mention him before. They did not expect to see him today. "Yes. It's that person." Whooshing Crocodile tugged at its claws. Every once in a while, his strength would undergo a true leap in leaps and bounds. He gives people the feeling that he is omnipotent. Lin Tian looked at an old drunkard, and after a few breaths, he calmed down a little. For a moment, he couldn't help but forget about the existence of the Primal Chaos King and the other peak Divine Lord-S. He asked an old drunkard, "Old man, where have you been all these years? I didn't go back to the Burning Sun sect even once." An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian and rubbed Lin Tian's head. There was a faint light in his eyes, and at this moment, he seemed incomparably deep. Nothing much. I'm just going to look at this world with your mistress. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking Divine Lord's aura surged. There were a total of 5 of them. The 5 peak Divine Lords all moved. All kinds of divine light pressed down together, mainly towards Lin Tian. At the same time, an old drunkard was also covered by it. From an old drunkard's words, they already knew about the relationship between an old drunkard and Lin Tian. Although an old drunkard looked extraordinary, they did not care. After all, they had all existed for countless years. In this world, there were not many people who could make them care. Now, their main focus was still on Lin Tian. Because the world seed was in Lin Tian's body, all of them had the same idea. Suppress Lin Tian, seize Lin Tian's physical body, and then control the world seed. After that, they would comprehend the power that surpassed the order. With a rumble, 5 peak Divine Lords' auras surged. In the blink of an eye, they came in front of Lin Tian and an old drunkard and pressed down mercilessly. This was not a destructive divine power. That was because the world seed was in Lin Tian's body. They had to seize Lin Tian's complete physical body and infuse it with their divine souls before they could control the world seed. Thus, they could not destroy Lin Tian's physical body. However, even so, the divine power was still very terrifying. It was mixed with a great power that could suppress everything. Lin Tian's physical body trembled. The attack was really terrifying. He felt as though his soul was going to be annihilated in the next moment. He could not even move his fingers or open his mouth. However, the oppressive feeling disappeared in an instant. An old drunkard's body flashed with a faint light and blocked off the majestic aura of the King of Chaos and the others. At the same time, the divine power that the 5 peak Divine Lords used was shattered in an instant. The 5 of them could not help but tremble slightly. They staggered back more than 10 steps. All of them were shocked. The 5 of them attacked at the same time. Although they did not use their full strength, the divine power was definitely very terrifying. However, at that moment, it was shattered by an old drunkard's aura and forced the 5 of them to retreat at the same time. Even the old gangster was moved. He stared at the old drunkard without blinking, and his eyes couldn't help but widen. Where did this old monster come from? A powerful and ancient existence like him was deeply shocked at this time. The 5 elements alligator, Ling Yun, and the others were even more astounded. Even though they knew that Lin Tian's master, the old drunkard, was extremely powerful and abnormal, they still couldn't help but be astounded when they saw this scene at this moment. This power! White Tiger's eyes almost popped out. He did not even look at the King of Chaos and the others. His back was facing the King of Chaos and the others. Just his aura alone was enough to shatter the divine power that the King of Chaos and the other peak Divine Lords used. He even sent the 5 of them flying. How terrifying was that? Lin Tian was naturally shocked too. Old man, you! Just his aura alone was enough to send the 5 peak Divine Lords flying. What kind of power was that? One should know that the King of Chaos and the other 4 were not ordinary Emperor gods. They either had king bodies, super bloodline, or mastered eternal divine way. However, such a group of super experts were easily sent flying by an old drunkard. What level are you at? He looked at an old drunkard in shock. An old drunkard looked at him and rubbed his head for the 3rd time. He messed up his hair even more and smiled. Take a guess. Lin Tian was speechless. Human! A cold and gloomy voice was heard. The King of Chaos and the other 4 looked at an old drunkard. Their auras started to rise and their eyes were cold. An old drunkard tilted his head and looked at the King of Chaos and the others. His gaze was calm and there were no fluctuations in his emotions. After glancing at the 5 of them, his gaze fell on Lin Tian again. The current immortal region is no longer suitable for you. Go to the chaotic world, the new underworld, and the Dafan Holy Land to train. If you want the world seed to become a great world, you need some special divine items to activate it. You need to go to these places to find them. Lin Tian was shocked again. Is there such a thing? An old drunkard nodded and pointed his finger. A ray of light flew into Lin Tian's consciousness and told Lin Tian what he needed to find. Boom! The aura of the God Emperors rumbled. The King of Chaos and the other four moved once more, pressing towards Lin Tian step by step. At this moment, most of their gazes were on the old drunkard. All of them could tell that the old drunkard was strong. Chapter 1848. 5 Celestial Emperors' auras surged. The 5 Celestial Emperors attacked at the same time. The waves of divine energy were many times stronger than before. They enveloped Old Drunkard at the same time. The heavens and earth trembled. The ancient road rumbled as if it was going to shatter in the next moment. Old man, be careful! Lin Tian could naturally feel the terror of the divine power waves. Even though the divine power was suppressing an old drunkard and not a trace of aura landed on him, it still made his internal organs feel cold. His god's soul felt like it was going to shatter in the next moment. An old drunkard still had his back facing the King of Chaos, Grand Supreme, Lord of the Abyss, and the others. The faint divine light outside his body swayed slightly, and the divine power that came pressing down on him was instantly shattered. At the same time, the divine light outside his body rippled like water and enveloped Grand Supreme, King of Chaos, and the others completely. The King of Chaos, Grand Supreme, and the others shook their divine power. However, they could not resist the divine light at all. They could not even break free from it. Their expressions changed drastically. Lin Tian's face turned pale, and he could not help but tremble. Those were 5 peak emperor gods. They were all famous figures, but now they were suppressed by an old drunkard so easily. Wishing Crocodile, by Ziki, and the others were naturally shocked. They were all shocked by an old drunkard's ability. At the same time, the old gangster stared at an old drunkard, and then his pupils shrank. Could it be that he has surpassed the Emperor God level? The King of Chaos and the others had reached the end of the Emperor God level, and none of them were ordinary cultivators. However, now, the 5 of them were attacking an old drunkard together, but they were suppressed by an old drunkard so easily. This ability made him change color. It was a little too scary. An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian and said, "They want to take your physical body for the world seed. As long as the world seed is in your body, you will be in danger." He looked at Lin Tian and said, "Should I eliminate them now, or should I wait until you become stronger and deal with them yourself?" When he said this, his voice was very calm, and his expression was also very calm. It was as if killing the King of Chaos and the others would not take any effort at all. This also caused the King of Chaos, Saint King Lin Zhuan, and the others' expressions to turn even uglier. An old drunkard was clearly looking down on them. They all roared, their voices shaking the sky. They all used all of their strength to attack the divine radiance of an old drunkard that enveloped their bodies. However, this was completely useless. The divine light of an old drunkard that enveloped their bodies looked extremely thin, but it was shockingly tough. They couldn't break through it even with their full strength. This undoubtedly caused the expressions of the 5 of them to change again and again. At the same time, Wishing Crocodile, by Ziki, and the others were also shocked. They were all quite shocked by the scene before them. This kind of ability was really too terrifying. Lin Tian was naturally shocked by this scene. Although he knew that his master was very freakishly powerful, he still couldn't help but tremble. The King of Chaos and the others were completely suppressed. Moreover, it was so simple. He had completely suppressed the 5 of them with just his aura. "What do you say? Do you want me to kill them, or do you want to kill them later?" An old drunkard's voice sounded again. The shock in Lin Tian's heart dissipated in an instant. His thoughts became incomparably agile. He looked at an old drunkard, looked at the suppressed King of Chaos, and the other 4. Finally, his gaze fell on an old drunkard again. He said seriously, "I'll kill him!" He didn't know how strong an old drunkard was now. However, he could see that an old drunkard definitely wouldn't find it difficult to kill the King of Chaos and the others. It should be very easy. However, he didn't want to let an old drunkard attack whenever there was a strong opponent. These 5 people came for the world seed that he obtained. They wanted to suppress and kill him. They were all his enemies. This time, he wanted to face them alone. Although he couldn't defeat the 5 of them now, and it was very dangerous for him to leave them alive, it was also a kind of motivation that could force him to increase his strength extremely quickly. Moreover, there was another very important point. Among the 5 of them, the Grand Supreme and Saint King Lun Zhuan had attacked Wu Yi before. The Grand Supreme even burned an incarnation to banish Wu Yi to the Wukong domain. He couldn't bear it. And now, even though he believed that these 2 people were no match for Wu Yi was his wife. These 2 people had attacked his wife. No matter how strong Wu Yi was, even if Wu Yi could kill these 2 people with a raise of his hand, from his standpoint, he still wanted to kill these 2 people with his own hands. There was no other reason. This was the responsibility that he should have as a husband. An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian. "Are you sure?" Lin Tian nodded. "I'm sure." An old drunkard ruffled Lin Tian's hair, and said with a smile, "Very good." As his words fell, he directly raised his hand and casually swung it behind him. A ray of light directly fell on the King of Chaos and the others. Pun pun pun. The 5 of them were all sent flying. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from this ancient road. Such a scene caused everyone's heart to palpitate again. 5 peak emperor gods. Each of them was an extremely terrifying figure in the primordial age legends. But now, they were directly sent flying by an old drunkard as if he was swatting flies. How terrifying was that? This is a prodigy? White Tiger trembled. He stared straight at an old drunkard. Too strong! Master Tiger admires this man so much! This strength, this method, it's simply... Even the old gangster was shocked. He also stared straight at an old drunkard. His face was full of disbelief. Where did this living fossil jump out from? This strength is simply... terrifying! And Yao Yao muttered. An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian. He stretched out his hand and pointed lightly. Immediately, a ray of light flashed past. It directly opened a world door beside Lin Tian. A dense aura of chaos floated out from it. Chaos world, go! An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian now. Lin Tian now nodded. He recognized that this was the door to the chaos world. There was a divine item that could make the world seed blossom and bear fruit, and truly evolve into a real big world. He needed to obtain such an item. At the same time, this was also an experience. Since an old drunkard asked him to go, he would definitely go. He nodded seriously at an old drunkard. Then, he looked at Bai Ziki and the others. What about you guys? Do you want to go with me? Bai Ziki shook his head. Ling Yun and the others also shook their heads. Over the years, they had followed Lin Tiandao. Their cultivation and strength had improved very quickly. However, this was basically all because Lin Tiandao had found various immortal treasures to increase their strength. Now, just like when they first left the 10 Directions celestial domain, they all wanted to go on their own and rely on themselves to seriously train themselves. Yee! Little Taichu squeaked and landed on Lin Tiandao's shoulder. Clearly, he wanted to go with Lin Tianyi to the Chaos World. Wishing Crocodile shrank down so that he could land on Lin Tiandao's shoulder. Of course, he also wanted to go with Lin Tianyi. In the end, the decision was made. Little Taichu, Wishing Crocodile, and Lin Tianyi would go to the Chaos World. The others would go to other places. Lin Tiandao didn't say anything about it. He respected their decision. Besides, he knew that it would be beneficial to them. If you need any divine treasures, let us know, Yang Qi said. If we find any, we'll do everything in our power to get them, Yang Qi said. Chapter 1849. The world seed was extraordinary. However, in order to make it blossom and grow into a super great world, a lot of rare and precious materials were needed to guide it. Now that Yang Qi and the others had asked him what he needed to activate the world seed, Lin Tian didn't hide anything. He told Yang Qi, Bai Ziki, and the others about the divine treasures that an old drunkard had sent into his sea of consciousness. Safety is the most important thing. Even if you find these things, you have to ensure your own safety before taking them, he said seriously. Some of the divine treasures that could allow a world seed to blossom and bear fruit into a super large world were naturally very extraordinary. The appearance of any one of them was enough to cause a commotion and attract many experts to fight over them. Therefore, discovering and obtaining these things was destined to be difficult. The difficulty was extremely high, and it was accompanied by high risks. Understood. Bai Ziki and the others nodded. In fact, during this process, Bai Ziki and the others had already decided where to go. An old drunkard had mentioned the new underworld and several other places. They bowed and asked an old drunkard to send them to those underworld. An old drunkard flicked his finger, and various portals appeared. They led to different worlds, and different auras came out from them. Stronger! Then, stronger! Bai Ziki said to Lin Tian now. He glanced at Lin Tianyi and stepped into the portal to the new underworld. At the same time, Ling Yun, Yang Qi, and Ai Yao Yao, Fan Ningxiong, and the others bade farewell to Lin Tian. Lin Tianyi stepped into the other portals, and they disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. They knew that Lin Tian and an old drunkard had something to say, so they left first. Moreover, they weren't going to the same place as Lin Tian, so there was no need to wait for Lin Tian. Lin Tian watched as the group of people disappeared and stepped into the various world portals. His eyes couldn't help but flash with a faint light. Now that they had parted ways, it was the beginning of a new chapter in their respective cultivations. No one knew how many years it would be before they would meet again. Thinking about this matter, he felt a little emotional, but soon returned to normal. He looked towards an old drunkard and said, "Old man, if you have time, come back to the Burning Sun sect and take a look. The Supreme Elder, Sect Master, and the rest miss you very much." An old drunkard smiled faintly. "I will." Lin Tian nodded and looked at the old gangster not far away. He waved his hand and said, "Old gangster, thank you. I'm going to the chaotic world to play around. See you next time. Speaking of which, if you are going to raid the King of Chaos lair again, remember to inform me. We will go together. When the time comes, you will block the King of Chaos lair while I help you empty it completely." The old gangster glanced at Lin Tianyi and didn't say anything. His gaze was always on an old drunkard. This person, an old drunkard's strength had really shocked him. Lin Tian once again looked at an old drunkard and said goodbye to an old drunkard. "Then, old man, I'll be going now." Boom! Suddenly, an astonishing fluctuation of divine power appeared and directly interrupted his words. The entire ancient road shook violently. The void distorted inch by inch as if a prehistoric heavenly beast had appeared. Its aura was oppressive. At this place, the sky cracked open. The King of Chaos, Supreme Elder, Nether King, Holy King Lun Zhuan, and Sakura appeared again. All of their gazes fell on an old drunkard, their eyes full of coldness. "You can't take the world seed away." After saying that, the five of them formed seals. Divine runes appeared on their bodies, forming a huge divine light platform in the blink of an eye. Following the appearance of this divine light platform, a strange brilliance rushed out from it, accompanied by an extremely vast pressure. In the blink of an eye, it condensed into a hazy light figure with a total of 12 wings on its back. Following the appearance of this figure, the King of Chaos and the others actually showed respect. They all bowed slightly to the light figure. This scene undoubtedly shocked Lin Tian. Wishing Crocodile, who was beside him, couldn't help but stare. Even little Tai Chu had a strange look on his face. Who is this?" Wishing Crocodile looked at the 12-winged light figure in shock. Such a light figure could actually make the King of Chaos and the others bow. One had to know that the King of Chaos and the others were peak Emperor gods. Moreover, they weren't ordinary peak Emperor gods. Each of them had extraordinary means. But now, they were actually willing to bow to a light figure summoned by the five of them. Even the old gangster couldn't help but stare at the scene. "World Seed!" A loud voice suddenly came from the 12-winged light figure's mouth. It was like the roar of thunder. This ancient path was greatly shaken, the void in many places directly becoming turbid. As the voice came out, the 12-winged light figure moved. Its gaze fell on Lin Tian. It transformed into a giant light handprint and grabbed at Lin Tian. Obviously, after it was summoned by the King of Chaos and the others, it already knew a lot of things. It knew that the World Seed was with Lin Tian. Moreover, it was also very concerned about the World Seed. Hence, it directly attacked and snatched it forcefully. Virum! An old drunkard attacked. He waved his hand casually, and a large sword force appeared out of nowhere. It shattered the giant light handprint that the 12-winged light figure had sent at Lin Tian. How could this be? When the King of Chaos and the others saw this, their expressions changed. Previously, when they were sent flying by an old drunkard, they already knew that an old drunkard was very strong. They weren't his match. However, they didn't want the World Seed to be taken away by an old drunkard protecting Lin Tian. Hence, they summoned the light figure. If they summoned the 12-winged light figure, the World Seed would no longer be fated with them. If they obtained it, it would belong to the 12-winged light figure. Although they were helpless about this, there was nothing they could do. This was because, in comparison, the World Seed being taken away by the 12-winged light figure was better than being taken away by an old drunkard protecting Lin Tian. Moreover, this could be considered a huge gift that they were offering to the 12-winged light figure. It was also beneficial to them. However, at this time, what the 5 of them didn't expect was that an old drunkard would actually shatter the giant light handprint that the 12-winged light figure had sent out with a casual wave of his hand. This was too shocking. They knew very well how powerful the 12-winged light figure was. The difference between them and the 12-winged light figure was like heaven and earth. An old drunkard was actually able to do such a thing. Let's go, kid! At this time, an old drunkard's voice sounded again. He didn't show the slightest bit of emotion towards the King of Chaos and the others and the 12-winged light figure. He let Lin Tian go directly to the primal chaos realm. Lin Tian was a little worried. He looked at the King of Chaos and the others and the 12-winged light figure that was glaring at them. The 12-winged light figure that the King of Chaos and the others summoned together was not simple. Although he had seen an old drunkard block the 12-winged light figure's attack with his own eyes, he was still a little worried. The 12-winged light figure gave him a very scary feeling. Chapter 1850. The aura of the 12-winged shadow was too terrifying. Lin Tian had never felt such a majestic aura before. Moreover, the King of Chaos and the other 4 ancient existences were beside him. Therefore, even though he could see that an old drunkard was very powerful, he still couldn't help but feel a little worried. An old drunkard could naturally tell what Lin Tian was thinking at this time. He said to Lin Tian now, "Don't worry about it. Go." Lin Tian paused and then nodded. Finally, he bid farewell to an old drunkard and said goodbye to old gangster. Together with Wishing Crocodile and Lil Tai Chu, he stepped directly into the door of chaos. An old drunkard looked calm. Although he was a little worried about an old drunkard, he trusted an old drunkard more. He believed that the 12-winged shadow wouldn't be a threat to an old drunkard. "Don't even think about it," a cold voice sounded. The 12-winged shadow's body surged with divine light. The light gradually solidified and turned into a tall man in black armor. His eyes were incomparably deep and cold. The 12 pairs of wings on his back flapped gently, and a large amount of divine light directly pressed toward the door of chaos that Lin Tian had stepped into. Now, the door of chaos had not closed. He wanted to destroy this door to the chaotic world, suppress Lin Tian, and seize the World Seed. An old drunkard turned around. The divine light outside his body transformed, and a large amount of sword light appeared out of thin air. It faced the middle-aged man in black armor with 12 pairs of wings on his back. Chi, chi, chi. In the blink of an eye, the divine light released by the middle-aged man in black armor to suppress the door of chaos was all shattered. It turned into light spots and dissipated. At the same time, the portal to the chaotic world dissipated with a hiss and disappeared without a trace. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged man with 12 wings on his back. He looked at an old drunkard and said, "I didn't expect that there would be someone like you in such a lowly world." As he spoke, he walked toward an old drunkard. The aura outside his body suddenly erupted like a flash flood. It was unknown how many times stronger than before. "I'll kill you first, then I'll take the world seed." As he took a step forward, the surroundings trembled. The aura of destruction was horrifying to the extreme. An old drunkard didn't say anything. He just raised his hand and pointed. With a whoosh, a beam of divine light flew out from his fingertip. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it passed through the middle of Black Armor's chest. The black-armored middle-aged man trembled violently, and the terrifying aura outside his body immediately became chaotic. Then, it quickly decreased. "You!" He looked at an old drunkard with shock in his eyes. At the same time, his expression turned ugly. In the next moment, his body shattered and dissipated into light. The King of Chaos, Holy King Lun Zhuan, and Sakura all had a change in expression. "Saint Danva!" They were very clear about how terrifying the black-armored middle-aged man with 12 wings on his back was. Although they had only summoned a wisp of the black-armored middle-aged man's soul, which was equivalent to an incarnation, not even 1% of his peak strength, it was still very terrifying. However, now, it was destroyed by an old drunkard with just a finger. At this moment, looking at an old drunkard again, the 5 of them were horrified. This person was too terrifying. His means were heaven-defying. Perhaps, he was even stronger than the black-armored middle-aged man they had summoned. "Retreat!" Sakura said in a low voice. He immediately flew away, not daring to stay for a moment. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the endless distance and disappeared into the distance. At the same time, the King of Chaos and the others also flew away together. At this time, the few of them were really scared. No matter what, they didn't expect an old drunkard to suddenly appear to be so terrifying. An old drunkard stood where he was and didn't stop them. He allowed the 5 of them to escape and disappear. His gaze fell on the old gangster at the side. After a pause, he said, "Armageddon." The old gangster was originally shocked by an old drunkard's strength. After hearing these 2 words, the shock on his face suddenly became unprecedentedly intense. "Which old bastard?" He stared at an old drunkard and his eyes couldn't help but narrow. Armageddon, this was his Taoist name from countless years ago. In the whole world, only a few people knew about it. However, this person in front of him actually knew about it. An old drunkard didn't say anything. He looked at the old gangster and smiled faintly. Then, he looked in the direction where Lin Tian left for the chaotic world. There was a gentle light in his eyes, but at the same time, they were incomparably deep. In the next moment, his figure became illusory and disappeared silently on the spot as if he had never appeared. The old gangster's eyes widened. He looked at the place where an old drunkard left, and then looked at the place where Lin Tian left. "Other than that heaven-defying girl, this kid actually has such a master," he muttered to himself. Then, he frowned and looked again at the place where an old drunkard disappeared. "This person, who exactly is—" Their vision was pitch black. Lin Tian led the wishing crocodile and the little Taichu into the door to the chaotic world and walked through the void. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 hours had passed. More than 2 hours later, at this moment, rays of light suddenly appeared in front of them. Then, a strong force emerged from the void, directly shaking the man and the 2 beasts out of the void and onto solid ground again. Looking around, there were towering mountains connected to one another. Every mountain had patches of ancient plants growing on it. The air was intertwined with thick immortal and chaotic auras. "This is the chaotic world?" The whooshing crocodile looked around. "Obviously it is." Lin Tian Andao. The chaotic aura in the air was too obvious. It was very consistent with the chaotic world. Most importantly, an old drunkard had opened the world door and sent them here. Since an old drunkard had personally opened the world door and sent them here, then this could only be the chaotic family. There could not be any mistakes. The whooshing crocodile nodded and looked around. Then, his gaze fell on Lin Tian. Speaking of which, kid, your crazy master is getting scarier and scarier. Those ancient existences like the King of Chaos could not resist at all in front of him. And that 12-winged light figure is obviously stronger than the King of Chaos and the others, but it still seems to be unable to do anything to your crazy master. What level has your crazy master reached? I don't know. Lin Tian shook his head, but his eyes were intertwined with brilliance. However, he is very powerful. His master was so powerful that he could easily suppress ancient existences like the King of Primal Chaos and Sakura. Naturally, he was happy and felt very proud of himself. Of course, Grandpa Crocodile knows that he is very strong, the Wishing Crocodile said. What I want to say is that your crazy master has already stepped out of the Emperor God realm, right? And that person with 12 wings on his back, could it be that he has surpassed the Emperor God realm? After all, the King of Chaos and the others already represent the peak fighting power of the Emperor God level. However, your perverted master and the 12-winged light figure are obviously stronger than the King of Chaos and the others. Moreover, there is a huge gap between their levels. Chapter 1851. Wishing Crocodile asked many questions in one go and expressed all the doubts in his heart. Lin Tian was also very concerned about these questions. I'm not sure if the person with 12 pairs of wings has surpassed the level of an Emperor God. However, I'm sure that he's with the King of Chaos and the others. There must be an even more powerful force behind those people. He thought for a while and said, when the Primal Chaos King and the rest summoned the 12-winged light figure, they were clearly very respectful to it. This was enough to show that it was an existence similar to a leader to the Primal Chaos King and the rest. However, the Primal Chaos King, Old Supreme, Sakura and the rest were not of the same clan. Hence, it was certain that there was indeed an even greater faction behind the 5 of them. What kind of force is it? Wishing Crocodile asked. How would I know? Lin Tian now said. The only thing I know now is that the force that the King of Chaos, Grand Supreme, and the others belong to is very terrifying. Wishing Crocodile nodded. With the existence of the person with 12 wings, the force behind those people is naturally very terrifying. As it said that, it thought of an old drunkard again and could not help but gasp. That crazy master of yours is also very terrifying. When it thought of how an old drunkard suppressed the King of Chaos and the others with just his aura, and how he was obviously not weaker than the terrifying existence with 12 wings, it could not help but feel a chill down its spine. It had only been a short while, and the old drunkard had already become so powerful that he didn't know what to say. He really did fit the 2 words. Heaven's chosen one. Perfectly. Boom! Suddenly, in the center of this great world, a surging peak Emperor God level pressure appeared and rushed up to the 9 heavens. There was an obvious chill and coldness in it. For a moment, the sky of the entire chaotic world could not help but tremble as if it was going to shatter in the next moment. King of Chaos! Lin Tian gazed into the distance at the center of this great world. A wisp of light appeared in his eyes, but it disappeared in a flash. Wishing Crocodile looked towards the center. That old fellow is back. Judging from his aura, he's obviously very angry. It seems that even if he summoned that terrifying 12-winged figure, he still couldn't do anything to that abnormal master of yours. As it spoke, it looked at Lin Tian and couldn't help but roll its eyes as it said, Speaking of which, why didn't you ask that freak of a master of yours to directly slap the King of Chaos and the others to death? Why did you have to leave them alive so that you could kill them yourself? It's unnecessary. Lin Tian glanced at it and said calmly, Give yourself pressure and turn it into motivation. I want to rely on myself to kill them. Rumbling sounds rang out. The primal chaos realm was extremely vast, even more so than the celestial realms. The pressure of the primal chaos realm at its center became even more turbulent. Then, it was clear that there were several other powerful auras of godly emperors that appeared. The entire primal chaos realm was seething with excitement. There's no need to think about it. When primal chaos returned and found out that you were in this world, he must have ordered the entire primal chaos world to suppress you as soon as they saw you. Wishing Crocodile said. Lin Tian naturally guessed this as well. His expression didn't change in the slightest, because he had long since expected this. He had brought the world seed into this world, and the King of Chaos knew that he had entered this world, so he naturally wanted to make a move against him. And as the king of this world, the King of Chaos would naturally mobilize the power of the entire great world to hunt him down. Don't care about him. Let's go and find something, he said to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu. What are we looking for? Wishing Crocodile asked. Beside him, Little Taichu also looked at him. Mixed Saint Source. Lin Tian now. Mixed Saint Source was a kind of precious crystal condensed from the chaotic aura at the beginning of the world. It was as rare as the Hong Meng heavenly crystal in the world. It was rumored that after refining it, it could transform a mortal body cultivator into the King of Chaos body, which was enough to make even the Emperor of Gods jealous. Once it appeared, it would definitely attract many experts to fight over it. If he wanted to make the world seed bloom and bear fruit, he needed to use this thing. And according to the information that an old drunkard had told him, this mixed saint source could only be found in this primal chaos world that was formed naturally. He called out to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu, and they left this place. They moved very quickly and began to search for this mixed saint source. In the blink of an eye, they had traveled far away. At this moment, a few loud bangs came from the front, and dozens of figures appeared in front of him. All of them were wearing black armor, and chaotic aura was intertwined around their bodies. Each of them had the cultivation of a true god, and they were very powerful. Chaotic cultivators! Lin Tiandao narrowed his eyes. At the same time, the dozens of cultivators from the chaotic tribe naturally noticed Lin Tiandao, Wishing Crocodile, and Little Taichu. They paused for a moment, and then all of them rushed over. Found it! Suppress them and offer them to our king! The dozens of cultivators from the chaotic tribe obviously knew about Lin Tiandao, and at this time, they all attacked together with all their strength. For a moment, all kinds of divine light roared, and all kinds of divine techniques covered all directions. Lin Tiandao's expression did not change. He directly attacked, and with a slap, he covered everyone. With a sizzling sound, the divine light that the dozens of cultivators cast out was shattered on the spot. Then, a majestic pressure fell, causing the dozens of cultivators to explode one after another. One after another, their bodies and souls were destroyed, and in the end, only one person was left. You! This person was terrified. He did not expect Lin Tiandao to be so terrifying. For a moment, all of his internal organs could not help but feel cold. Lin Tiandao did not talk nonsense. Now that he was a half-step celestial god, it was really too easy for him to kill a group of ordinary true gods. It was no different from cutting grass. At this time, he left this person behind and directly sent a strand of divine thought into his sea of consciousness. On the ancient road in the immortal realm, he had once searched the sea of consciousness of an expert from the chaotic tribe. He had some understanding of the chaotic world, but his understanding was not very detailed. Now that he had entered the chaotic world to find the soul saint source in this world, at this time, he needed a more thorough understanding of the chaotic world. Therefore, he left this person behind and once again searched his sea of consciousness for the various things about this world, to find some information about the chaotic saint source. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. He withdrew his divine thought from this person's sea of consciousness and smashed it with a slap. Did you find anything about the chaotic saint source? Wishing Crocodile asked. No. Lin Tiandao shook his head. There was no information about the chaotic saint source in this person's sea of consciousness. However, he had already found all the things that ordinary cultivators in this chaotic world knew. However, he also found out something else. Now, the entire chaotic world's cultivators are searching for me. The King of Chaos has taken action and sealed the entire chaotic world. What do you mean? Wishing Crocodile stared, a bad feeling rising in his heart. Lin Tiandao said, In other words, now that we are sealed in this chaotic world, it's impossible to break out of this place without the cultivation of a peak divine emperor. Doesn't that mean that we're like turtles in a jar now? We're completely under the control of others. In a completely sealed place to catch us? If this goes on, won't it be over soon? Wishing Crocodile stared. It's not that serious, Lin Tian now said. The chaotic world is very big, even bigger than the immortal region. It's not that easy to find us in such a big world, even with the means of the King of Chaos. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mobilized the power of the entire chaotic world to search for us. As long as we're careful and hide, we won't. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful divine power appeared in the northwest direction, interrupting his words. The divine power was intertwined with a strong divine king-level pressure, and it was quickly heading in this direction. Lin Tian now was immediately shocked. A divine king was coming, and it was obvious that he had discovered them. Chapter 1852. The God King level aura intertwined and came from afar at an extremely fast speed. Let's go! Lin Tian looked solemn as he glanced in that direction. He immediately called out to the Wishing Crocodile and little Taichu to escape in another direction. They were not weak, but there was still a huge gap between them and a God King level expert. They were no match for a God King level expert. Naturally, they could not fight a God King level expert head on, so they could only retreat. Swoosh! 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 The man and the two beasts were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they were already far away. However, the God King level aura behind them was getting closer and closer. Soon, a middle-aged man in purple armor appeared. You can't escape! The man's voice was cold. His body was surrounded by strands of chaotic light. He was clearly a chaotic tribe expert. With a loud boom, his aura soared. The distance between him and Lin Tian and the rest was shortened. At the same time, the man extended his hand and pressed down on Lin Tian and the rest. The God King level aura shook the entire area. The man and the two beasts naturally felt the immense pressure. They did not dare to be careless. As they flew rapidly, they used all their divine powers and secret skills to attack the middle-aged man behind them. Of course, they were not trying to hurt the middle-aged man in purple armor. Instead, they were trying to block his attack and disrupt his pursuit. Boom! The divine powers of the man and the two beasts collided with the middle-aged man's hand in the blink of an eye. There was an explosion of divine waves that filled the sky. The middle-aged man's hand was blasted away. The divine powers and secret skills of the man and the two beasts were all shattered. The middle-aged man in purple armor snorted coldly. He stepped forward and his speed increased. The man and the two beasts did not dare to be careless. They flew rapidly. However, their speed was not as fast as a God King level expert. Soon, the middle-aged man caught up with them. You're just ants. How dare you escape from me? The middle-aged man in purple armor said coldly. His God King level aura intertwined on the surface of his body. Rays of light flew out and swept towards the man and the two beasts. In the blink of an eye, a large expanse of divine light flew over, causing Lin Tian, Wishing Crocodile, and little Taichu to tremble involuntarily. After all, this was the killing light unleashed by a God King level powerhouse. Even the void in all directions was sealed. Lin Tian immediately raised the Great Tao reincarnation diagram. Little Taichu and Wishing Crocodile also used all their strength to welcome this divine light. In the blink of an eye, their divine abilities collided with the killing lights and exploded. Bang! 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 3 muffled sounds rang out. One man and 2 beasts were all sent flying by the shockwave, all of them spilling out blood. I can't block it at all. The difference in cultivation is too great, Wishing Crocodile said in a deep voice, his expression extremely solemn. Little Taichu squeaked and stared warily at the purple-armored middle-aged man. Lin Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. Continue retreating! After this collision, they were all severely injured. However, the sealed space around them was restored. He called out to Wishing Crocodile and little Taichu and fled into the distance again. They had no other choice. Facing a God King level powerhouse, they could only retreat. Only by retreating would they have a chance of survival. The purple-armored middle-aged man snorted coldly. He did not care about Lin Tian and the rest escaping. He was a god-king level powerhouse. How could 3 mere true gods escape from under his nose? For a moment, Lin Tian, Little Taichu, and Wishing Crocodile fled in front while the purple-armored middle-aged man chased after them. The distance between the two parties was constantly closing. The purple-armored middle-aged man attacked. Chaotic light interweaved outside his body, and various divine powers bombarded Lin Tian and the rest. Lin Tian, Wishing Crocodile, and Little Taichu unleashed powerful divine powers to defend themselves. However, it was impossible for them to completely block a god-king level powerhouse's attack. In the blink of an eye, they were severely injured again. However, the man and the 2 beasts did not stop. They used their respective secret skills to heal their injured bodies as they continued to flee. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 hours had passed. At this moment, a black crack suddenly appeared in front of them. It was at least 10 feet wide, and there were streaks of black light surging outside the crack. It exuded an extremely terrifying aura as if it could devour everything. Lin Tian was immediately shocked. He called out to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu to stop. The crack gave him a very dangerous feeling. At the same time, the purple-armored middle-aged man caught up from behind. When he saw the black crack, he immediately stopped. This is... His pupils dilated, and his expression changed. Lin Tian saw that the purple-armored middle-aged man had stopped chasing after them. He could tell that the purple-armored middle-aged man was afraid of the black crack. "What is this?" Lin Tian asked. Since the purple-armored middle-aged man was afraid of the black crack, he obviously knew what it was. The purple-armored middle-aged man snorted coldly and did not answer Lin Tian at all. He glanced at the black crack and stepped forward again, closing in on Lin Tian. "This is the end. You have no way to escape." Looking at Lin Tian, the purple-armored middle-aged man pressed forward step by step with vigilance in his eyes. Of course, this vigilance were not because of Lin Tian, but because of the black crack in front. Lin Tian looked at the black crack in front of him and looked at the purple-armored middle-aged man who was closing in. "You seem to be afraid of this thing?" The purple-armored middle-aged man's eyes were cold. He did not answer and continued to close in on Lin Tian. His eyes were still full of vigilance. In the process of closing in on Lin Tian, he always paid attention to the black crack. "It seems to be the case," he said. Having said this, he glanced at the purple-armored middle-aged man. He called out to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu, and stepped toward the black crack. "Kid, do you really want to go in there? Lord Crocodile feels that it is a forbidden zone for life. It's very dangerous." Wishing Crocodile stared at the purple-armored middle-aged man. The black crack lay horizontally in front of them. The aura it exuded was a little terrifying, making its internal organs feel cold. "It's very dangerous inside. If you go in, you may die. However, if you don't go in, you will be suppressed in the blink of an eye. Then, the only outcome is death." He glanced at the purple-armored middle-aged man and said to Wishing Crocodile. Wishing Crocodile couldn't help but roll its eyes. All right. Now, this was indeed the case. If they didn't go into the black crack, they would only be suppressed and killed by the purple-armored middle-aged man. As such, at this time, stepping into the black crack in front of them was the best choice at the moment. At that moment, it and Little Taichu followed Lin Tian and stepped into the black crack step by step. The black crack was huge, as if a peerless ferocious beast had opened its bloody mouth. It gave people a very creepy feeling. The purple-armored middle-aged man's expression changed immediately. He looked at Lin Tian and said gloomily, "That is the oldest forbidden zone in our chaotic world. Over the generations, several divine emperors have been buried there. You dare to step in? You are courting death. Stop!" Chapter 1853. Lin Tian couldn't help but sneer at the middle-aged man's words. "I might die if I go in, but I won't die if you catch me," he mocked and stepped into the black crack without looking back. Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu followed him and stepped into the black crack as well. Now, there was only one path in front of them. There was no better choice. If they didn't enter the black crack, they would be suppressed and killed by the middle-aged man in purple. Compared to being suppressed and killed by the middle-aged man, they would rather step into the dangerous black crack. "Stop, you ant!" the purple-armored middle-aged man shouted anxiously. His face was gloomy, but he didn't dare to get close to the black crevice. He knew how terrifying the black crevice was. Since ancient times, it had swallowed countless experts of the chaotic tribe. None of the living beings who entered it walked out alive. Even the king of their tribe kept a respectful distance from it. Tisk! Lin Tian didn't bother to talk to him anymore. He didn't change his pace and stepped into the black crack with Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu. The middle-aged man's face became gloomier and angrier. The king of their tribe wanted to capture Lin Tian alive and bring him back. He found Lin Tian and chased after him, but Lin Tian stepped into the terrifying black crack. The king of their tribe had sent him the mission personally, but he had failed. "What an arrogant bug!" His voice was filled with coldness and anger. He directly turned around and left. He had to report this matter to the Primal Chaos Temple. Lin Tian stepped into the black crack with Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu. It was pitch black all around. He couldn't see anything. After entering, even his divine sense was suppressed and couldn't be used. Even if he opened his delusion breaker eyes, it didn't work at all. He couldn't see through the darkness. In this place, the intertwining aura in the air was exceptionally oppressive, making it difficult for people to breathe. Moreover, after entering, they had no sense of direction at all. They couldn't find the way out even if they wanted to. "What exactly is this place like?" Whooshing Crocodile felt a little scared. Although he couldn't see his surroundings clearly, he couldn't help but look around. "I don't know." Lin Tian shook his head. How would he know what kind of place it was? Now, all he knew was what the purple-armored middle-aged man had said before. He said that this was the most ancient forbidden land in the primal chaos world and that Emperor God experts had died here. "Then, what should we do now?" Whooshing Crocodile asked. Beside him, Little Taichu also looked at Lin Tian. Although it was very dark here and their divine senses were suppressed, they were very close to each other and could still see each other clearly. Lin Tian thought for a moment and said, "Let's go forward." At this time, there was no way to retreat. They couldn't get out of the range of this black crack, but they couldn't keep standing in the same place. After all, they couldn't do anything by standing in the same place. It was meaningless. Immediately, he called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu and walked forward. "Da-ba! Da-ba! Da-ba!" It was pitch black inside the black crack. It was very quiet. As he walked, his footsteps echoed in the air. In the blink of an eye, he and Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu walked about 1,000 feet away. At this moment, the dark space suddenly shook. The intertwining aura in the air became even more oppressive. In the next moment, a blood-red whirlpool suddenly appeared. It was over 100 meters in diameter. The two people and one beast were within the range of this blood-red whirlpool. A powerful force pulled them towards the center of the whirlpool. Lin Tian's expression changed immediately. He activated his half-step heavenly god-level divine power and performed a series of great skills to get out of the vortex. At the same time, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu were naturally moved. They also performed great skills and divine powers and moved out of the vortex. This blood-red vortex gave them a very dangerous feeling. With a rumble, 3 strong forces surged. The man and the 2 beasts used all their strength. However, it was useless. The suction force of the blood-red vortex that enveloped them was too strong. Even with Lin Tian's half-step heavenly god-level cultivation, he could not break free. He could only watch as his body was pulled toward the center of the vortex. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in the center of the vortex. Then, they were directly swallowed by this blood-red vortex. Lin Tianji felt a strong sense of dizziness in his head. He could not see anything. It was as if he was about to faint. Then, after a few breaths passed, the dizziness gradually weakened. The space around him changed, and he stepped onto solid ground again. Looking around, the surroundings were a bit dusky. This was an extremely turbid space, and there was an ancient path that led into the depths of this turbid space. He couldn't see anything else, and right now, they just happened to be on this ancient path. This caused his eyes to focus. He was swallowed by the blood-red vortex in the black crack. He actually came to such an ancient road. Moreover, this ancient road looked a little strange. It seemed to lead to death, but also to new life. This was an extremely contradictory and strange feeling. However, for some reason, when he stood on this ancient path right now, this type of feeling arose within him. Cheetah beside him, the sound of wings flapping sounded. Whooshing Crocodile and Little Tight Shoes shook their wings and headed toward the end of the ancient road. At this time, the eyes of the two became completely confused. Then, in the next moment, their physical bodies fell from the sky. Their souls flew out from their bodies. They were also confused. They minded their own business and headed toward the end of the ancient road. It was as if they had been summoned by something. Lin Tian's expression changed immediately. "What are you doing?" However, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taishu seemed to have completely lost themselves at this time. They did not respond to him at all. Their souls separated from their physical bodies and headed toward the depths of the ancient road in a daze. Lin Tian frowned. Clearly, he could see that this was a little strange. He immediately activated his divine power and activated the Tiani soul technique. He used his powerful soul energy to envelop the surrounding space, trapping the souls of the two in a narrow area at the same time. Then, he quickly made a move. He covered his hand with soul light and forcibly sent the souls of the two into their bodies. In an instant, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu's physical bodies trembled at the same time. Their souls entered their bodies, and their eyes became clear. Whooshing Crocodile shook violently a few times. The scales all over its body stood up. Next to it, Little Taichu's hair stood up. Its big bright eyes were wide open. It stared straight into the depths of the ancient road with a fearful look. Lin Tian looked at the two and frowned. He asked, "What's wrong with you two? What happened just now?" Just now." Whooshing Crocodile trembled. He looked at the depths of the ancient road and said, I don't know. Suddenly, a voice floated in my mind. It asked Lord Crocodile to go, to reincarnate. Chapter 1854. Listening to Whooshing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian was instantly moved. There was a voice in Whooshing Crocodile's mind, telling it, to reincarnate. Are you kidding me? He looked at Whooshing Crocodile, and his pupils couldn't help but narrow. There had been the 6 paths of reincarnation in the world since ancient times. It was rumored that after a creature died, if the soul was not destroyed, it would undergo reincarnation to be reborn and become a new life. This kind of reincarnation was different from ordinary reincarnation. Although both would turn into a new life, reincarnation could be controlled independently. The new life formed after reincarnation would not have any changes in its life origin. Whatever race it used to be, it would still be the same race after reincarnation. After its memory was restored, it would still be its former self, and there would not be any major changes. However, reincarnation was different. The new life formed by reincarnation would have its life origin completely changed, and the previous memory would never be recalled. The most important thing was that before reincarnation, the original soul might be human, but after reincarnation, it might turn into a demon beast, which was completely out of one's control. It could be said that once one entered reincarnation, it was equivalent to disappearing. After reincarnation, one could not remember the past, and the life origin would change. It would be a completely new life. Are you sure there is a voice telling you to reincarnate? He asked again. This reincarnation was known to everyone in the world, and even ordinary mortals knew a little about it. However, such things were too illusory after all. He had never really cared about it. Unexpectedly, Wishing Crocodile actually said such a thing on such an ancient road, claiming that there was a voice in his mind telling him to reincarnate. Of course, I'm sure. How can it be fake? Wishing Crocodile stared at him and said, Would Grandpa Crocodile joke about such things? Yeah, I heard it too. The little guy spoke at this time. Lin Tian's pupils condensed again. This reincarnation. He looked up at the depths of the ancient road and couldn't help but frown. This road can let people reincarnate? Speaking of which, Wishing Crocodile spoke again at this time, looking at him and said, Although Grandpa Crocodile's soul was completely out of my control after leaving my body, I still remember some things. It seems that you weren't affected? Lin Tian nodded. Previously, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu's souls had left their bodies and became confused and dull. They walked toward the end of the ancient road in a daze as if they were summoned by something. However, he didn't feel any discomfort, and didn't hear any voice telling him to reincarnation. Crocodiles. Linz's Grandpa Crocodile S's, Linz's cultivation. Is. The 5 elements crocodile was a little strange. Lin Tian frowned. All of a sudden, a gentle breeze blew in from an unknown place. On both sides of the ancient road, white figures suddenly walked out of the turbidity. All of them looked a little faint. They were either humans or demon beasts, just like Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu previously. Their expressions were confused and dull. After stepping out of the turbidity, they walked on the ancient road and mechanically walked toward the end of the ancient road. Souls! Lin Tian was moved. He cultivated the Tianyi soul technique and was a powerful cultivator. Naturally, he could tell that these figures were souls at a glance. Moreover, they were very pure souls. They are all walking toward the end of this ancient road. This? Wishing Crocodile stared ahead. Are they going to reincarnate? Previously, it suddenly heard a voice in its mind telling it to reincarnate. Then, its soul inexplicably left its body and walked toward the end of the ancient road. At this time, when it saw all these souls heading toward the end of the ancient road, it naturally thought of reincarnation. Lin Tian paused and said in a deep voice, Follow them and take a look. Hearing his words, Wishing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble immediately. Follow them? Don't kid! Lord Crocodile always feels that if we really go forward and follow these souls into the depths of this ancient road, we may really reincarnate unknowingly. At that time, it's no different from having our body and soul destroyed. Lord Crocodile is scared. Lin Tian squinted at it. Do you think we have any other choice now besides going forward along this ancient road? Now, there was no way to retreat behind them. They couldn't stay in the same place all the time, so they could only move forward. At the same time, after setting foot on this ancient road, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu's souls had left their bodies on their own. There was a voice telling them to reincarnate. At this time, so many souls suddenly appeared and walked toward the end of the ancient road. Naturally, he was very concerned. Moreover, if they wanted to leave this strange ancient road and find a way out, they could only go deeper into this ancient road. Because it was absolutely impossible to find a way out if they stayed in the same place. Wishing Crocodile opened its mouth, then showed a dejected expression. Naturally, it also thought of some of the things that Lin Tian thought of. If they wanted to get out of here, they could only go to the end of the ancient road. Let's go, it said with a sad face, looking like it was about to cross the gates of hell. Look at you. It's not like you're going to die soon. Lin Tian glanced at it, and beckoned it to walk with Little Taichu toward the end of the ancient road. Walking on this ancient road, he seemed very cautious and alert. After all, this ancient road was really a bit strange. As they moved forward, on both sides there were constantly white souls stepping out of the turbid ancient road. All of them were dull and lifeless, walking toward the end of the ancient road at the same speed. The man and the 2 beasts walked on the ancient road, but they did not touch those souls because this ancient road was too strange and mysterious. If they touched those souls walking on the ancient road, who knew what would happen? They had to be very careful. In the blink of an eye, they walked into the depths of the ancient road. More than 2 hours passed. At this moment, a corpse suddenly appeared in front of them. It was a tall, middle-aged man who wore black armor. There were many ancient runes engraved on the armor. Even now, the runes had not been erased and were well preserved. Moreover, there was a faint aura of a divine emperor around the corpse, causing the man and the two beasts to feel a slight pain in their bodies. They felt a little uncomfortable under the aura of a divine emperor. The chaotic tribe. Lin Tian stopped and narrowed his eyes. The runes on the armor were unique to the chaotic tribe. He could recognize them and could not be wrong. This person was obviously an expert of the chaotic tribe. Moreover, he was a divine emperor when he was alive. 5 elemental alligators' eyes widened. Previously, that purple-armored deity king of the chaos race said that since ancient times, many of their race's experts had been sucked into the black crack, and none of them had walked out alive. It was true. This should be one of the experts of the chaotic tribe who was sucked into this black crack. It looked at the corpse and continued. The corpse is well preserved. Could it be that, like Lord Crocodile and Little Taichu, his soul inexplicably left his body after entering this crack and went to reincarnate? Lin Tian frowned and looked at the end of the ancient road. He said, I'm not sure if he went to reincarnate, but one thing is certain. The situation should be the same as before. His soul inexplicably left his body and stepped into the depths of this ancient road. Chapter 1855. The ancient road was too strange. Lin Tian looked into the depths of the ancient road, looked at the God Emperor corpse in front of him, and finally looked into the depths. Let's go, he said to the wishing crocodile and the little Taichu. If they wanted to leave this ancient road, they could only walk into the depths and search for clues to leave this ancient road. Then, the man and the two beasts continued to walk into the depths. On both sides of the ancient road, more and more souls stepped out from the turbidity. All of them were at a loss as they walked into the depths of the ancient road with them. Then, gradually, as they went deeper and deeper, many corpses appeared one after another on the ancient road. All of the corpses were well preserved, but their souls were gone. After walking for a while, they found a God Emperor corpse. The God Emperor's aura suppressed them to the point that they couldn't breathe, and their bodies felt like they were about to be crushed. But this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that there were 3 ancient seal characters beside the corpse. It was as if this God Emperor had carved them in the last moment of his life, and they contained the God Emperor's charm. The Reincarnation Road. Seeing these 3 words, the man and the 2 beasts couldn't help but tremble. The place they were at now was the Reincarnation Road? This is a joke, right? This is the Reincarnation Road? We ran to the Reincarnation Road? The wishing crocodile swallowed his saliva with difficulty. The Reincarnation Road. No matter how one looked at it, it was an extremely dangerous place. Compared to this place, the Hell's Extremine Temple was like playing house. Lin Tian was also deeply moved. He stared unblinkingly at the 3 ancient words carved by this God Emperor before his death. He looked at the souls that were continuously emerging from the turbidity on both sides of the ancient road, and then his gaze fell on the wishing crocodile and the little Taichu. You guys, was there really a voice telling you to reincarnate in the beginning? He asked again. Looking at the 3 ancient words, Reincarnation Road, in this place, even someone as determined as him couldn't remain calm. When they had just entered this place, wishing crocodile and little Taichu had heard a voice telling them to reincarnate. Their divine souls had mysteriously left their bodies and headed towards the end of the ancient road. After that, many soul bodies had appeared on both sides of the ancient road. Now, a God Emperor level corpse had the 3 ancient words, Path of Reincarnation, carved beside it. It was clear that this was the corpse's knowledge of this ancient road in its final moments before its death. All of these things combined together caused Yunche's heart to involuntarily thump. This place might really be the path of reincarnation. However, he was unwilling to believe that this was the reincarnation road from the bottom of his heart. Perhaps these 3 words sounded grand, but when he was truly here, there wasn't the slightest sense of grandeur. There was only a sense of horror. He stepped onto the path of reincarnation and entered reincarnation all the way. This was an ancient saying. If he were to enter the cycle of reincarnation, he would be completely finished. It would be no different from having his body and soul destroyed. Wishing Crocodile clearly knew what Yunche was thinking. It said with a long face, "Didn't I already tell you? What's the point of lying to you?" It also didn't want to believe that this was the path of reincarnation. However, with all of the things in front of it, it had no choice but to believe it. Even the naive and pure little Taichu couldn't help but feel a little weak at this time. It used all of its strength to shrink its neck. The path of reincarnation wasn't a good place. To them, it was the greatest danger zone. For a moment, the man and the two beasts were somewhat stunned. After a while, Lin Tian was the first to come back to his senses. "Since we're here, let's take things as they come. Let's try the path of reincarnation together. Let's continue walking and find a way out of here," he said after taking a deep breath. Let's go, let's go." Whooshing Crocodile lowered its head. From the beginning, it didn't want to go deeper into the ancient road. Now that it saw the three ancient words beside the path of reincarnation, it didn't want to go deeper. It was afraid that it would be reincarnated in a daze. However, it was also clear that if they wanted to leave this place, they had to continue going deeper. Otherwise, they would have to stay on this ancient road forever. The ancient road was murky on both sides. They had tried before, but they couldn't enter at all. They couldn't cross over. "Let's go." Lin Tian now. At the same time, he took action. He took out the immortal Emperor Pagoda and used a lot of effort to move the corpse of the God Emperor here into it. Now he, Whooshing Crocodile, and little Taichu had all reached the true immortal realm. The Saint Refinement Treasure technique was no longer of much use. He couldn't use this technique to refine the flesh and blood essence of other living beings to improve his own body like before. However, he still put the corpse away. This was because this was the corpse of a God Emperor. It was definitely a great killing machine. As long as he left this ancient road, he could enter it with his spirit. Even if he encountered a God Emperor expert, he could easily kill him. After that, he and Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu continued to go deeper into the ancient road. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Half a month later. On this day, a lot of white fog gradually appeared on the ancient road in front of them. It slowly floated in the air. As the breeze blew, a trace of it fell on the human and two beasts. Immediately, Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu trembled. Their scales and hair stood on end. They both stepped back. "What's wrong?" Lin Tian now frowned. He was also affected by the white fog, but he didn't feel any discomfort. However, Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu had such a big reaction. "Are you okay?" Whooshing Crocodile's scales stood on end. It looked horrified. When it said this, its true god-level monster body couldn't help but tremble. Next to it, little Taichu shuddered. It then looked at him with its big eyes. "I'm fine." Lin Tian now shook his head. He frowned and asked, "What about you guys? What happened just now?" Looking at the reaction of Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu, after they were affected by the white fog, it was obvious that something bad had happened. Whooshing Crocodile stared at him with a strange look. Then, it trembled again. "Lord Crocodile's memory has been cut off," it said. Just now, when it was affected by the white fog, it instantly felt that its memory had become chaotic. It was as if it was about to forget everything. Immediately, it felt a chill down its spine. It quickly retreated from the white fog. Then, it found that some of its memory had disappeared. It couldn't recall it no matter how hard it tried. "Yeah," little Taichu said in a childish voice. It felt a little scared. Obviously, it was exactly the same as Whooshing Crocodile's experience. This made Lin Tian now immediately change his expression. He tilted his head and looked at the white fog in front of the ancient road. This white fog can erase memories. But why was he fine just now? Chapter 1856. The Whooshing Crocodile looked at Lin Tian with a serious expression, but at the same time, it looked a little strange. Even the little Taichu was looking at Lin Tian with its big eyes. This place was known as the Reincarnation Road, and it had been confirmed by Emperor Gods. Even Emperor Gods would be affected if they stayed here, and it would be difficult for them to resist. However, Lin Tian had not been affected at all since he entered this place. Lin Tian was a reincarnated body, and both of them had reincarnation. Therefore, they could not help but have some ideas. Lin Tian frowned slightly. He could not explain this matter clearly. He looked at the wisps of white mist on the ancient road in front of him. After a pause, he thought of an idea. Then let's give it a try. As he spoke, his thoughts moved slightly, and a wisp of reincarnation origin light appeared, enveloping the wishing crocodile. Go closer and see if your memories will disappear, he said to the wishing crocodile. Now, he had enveloped the wishing crocodile with a wisp of reincarnation origin light. If the wishing crocodile still lost its memories when it approached the white mist, it would mean that it was not affected by this ancient road, and it had nothing to do with its constitution. On the other hand, if the wishing crocodile's memories did not disappear when it approached the white mist this time, it could be confirmed that it was not affected by this ancient road, and it had something to do with its constitution. The wishing crocodile naturally knew what he was thinking. Good idea! It did not hesitate at that moment. Under the cover of Lin Tian's reincarnation origin light, it cautiously approached the white mist. Soon, it got closer and was tainted by some white fog. I'm not affected! It exclaimed. This time, the wisps of white mist in front of the ancient road infected its body, but its memories did not disappear like before, and it did not feel any other discomfort. Lin Tian's expression changed. He released another ray of reincarnation origin light and enveloped little Taichu. Little guy, you go and try it too. Little Taichu responded in a childish voice. It was enveloped by Lin Tian's reincarnation origin light and directly rushed into the white fog. Lin Tian and Wishing Crocodile were shocked. This movement was too big. What if something unexpected suddenly happened? However, in the next moment, little Taichu's voice came from the white fog. It was flapping its wings and flying back and forth. Yeah, I'm fine. This time, Lin Tian was truly shocked. As expected, it has something to do with your physique. Wishing Crocodile stared at Lin Tian and said, Your reincarnation form, as its name suggests, is really related to reincarnation. Reincarnation was too shocking. According to the ancient books, it was the supreme power that formed the world. It was the root of the natural operation of the world, and no power could surpass reincarnation. They had always thought that the reason why the reincarnation form was named reincarnation was only because the ancients used the word reincarnation to symbolize that the reincarnation form was domineering and could suppress all other physiques and bloodlines. They had never thought that the reincarnation form was related to the legendary reincarnation. But now they were shocked. Lin Tian's physique was actually related to reincarnation. This was a bit shocking. Even Lin Tian himself was shocked. He himself had never thought that his physique would be related to reincarnation. On both sides of the turbid road, souls continuously stepped out and walked along the ancient road. They entered the white fog and walked to the end of the ancient road. Lin Tian looked forward. It was not until 10 breaths later that he came back to his senses. He took a deep breath and stopped thinking about the problem of his physique. Now, the key was to find the way out of this place. Let's go. He called out to the Wishing Crocodile and the little Taichu. Originally, the white fog lay horizontally in front of them. The Wishing Crocodile and the little Taichu would have their memories erased once they got close. But now, with the protection of his reincarnation origin light, the two were no longer affected. They stepped into the white fog one after another and walked to the end of the ancient road. The white fog was very thick. There were many souls walking in it. The man and the two beasts followed behind these souls. Soon they had walked far away. Then, in the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Half a year later, on this day, the ancient road was suddenly cut off. There was a huge abyss in front of them. The light inside was hazy. They followed a group of souls to this place. All of the souls were confused. They entered the abyss one after another and disappeared in the blink of an eye. I can't feel their soul power. It's completely gone. The whooshing crocodile stared into the abyss and couldn't help but gulp. It can't be that. They have entered reincarnation, right? Lin Tian also looked down. His eyes narrowed slightly. When these souls entered, their soul power instantly disappeared. It really seemed like they had entered reincarnation. He raised his head again and looked around. The ancient road was cut off at this place. There was only a horizontal abyss. There was no other road on the other side. There was no other road around. The whooshing crocodile naturally also noticed this. There's no road at all. How do we get out? The little Taichu mumbled in a childish voice. It tilted its head and looked around from time to time. In the end, it didn't find anything. Lin Tian retracted his gaze at this time. He watched as the souls stepped into the abyss one by one and disappeared. His gaze was fixed on the abyss below. We can only try from here. He looked down at the abyss and said, What? The whooshing crocodile was shocked. You can't be thinking of jumping down from here to leave, right? Yes. Lin Tian nodded. The whooshing crocodile's eyes almost popped out. No matter how I look at it, this seems to be the end of reincarnation. If we jump down, we'll most likely be reincarnated. There's no other way. If we want to leave, we can only try from here. Lin Tian now. As soon as he finished speaking, the reincarnation map emerged from behind him with a buzzing sound. It slowly chose to emit divine light that filled the sky. Since my physique is related to reincarnation, with this king's territory, we might be able to isolate the hazy light in the abyss below and then return to the world we were in before, he said. The whooshing crocodile's eyes lit up when it heard this. It seemed to make sense. Are you sure? It asked. I'm not sure, Lin Tian now said. It's just intuition. The whooshing crocodile almost cursed out loud. It thought that Lin Tian suddenly had an epiphany, but it didn't expect it to be just intuition. How dare you try when you're not even sure? This is not a joke. Once you fail, we'll all be finished, it said angrily. Lin Tian squinted at it and repeated his previous words. There's no other way. As he spoke, he let the little Taichu land on his shoulder. Then, with a thought, the reincarnation map shone and enveloped the whooshing crocodile, pulling it to his side. Then, he walked towards the edge of the abyss. Kid, what are you doing? Don't mess around. The whooshing crocodile's scales stood up. Let's look again and see if there's any other way. Anyway, there's nothing important outside, so there's no need to rush out. There's no hurry. Chapter 1857. Seeing Lin Tian's actions, whooshing crocodile was really frightened. Lin Tian squinted at it. Look at you. Although it's just my intuition, there's at least a 60% chance of success. What are you afraid of? There's still a 40% chance of failure. If we fail, we'll have nothing. Whooshing crocodile cried. There's no other way. This is the only way. Lin Tian still said the same sentence. He was closer to the edge of the abyss, and his gaze was always fixed on the abyss. Looking at the abyss, although he spoke to whooshing crocodile in a relaxed tone, he was actually very nervous. After all, whooshing crocodile's words were not wrong. If he jumped down from here and his intuition was wrong, he would have nothing left. He would be reincarnated and would no longer be his current self. It was equivalent to saying goodbye to this world completely. However, although he was extremely nervous, he believed in his intuition. At the same time, it was just as he and the five-element crocodile had said. Now, they had no other way out. If they wanted to leave this reincarnation path and return to the normal world, they could only jump down from this abyss and find a way out below. Looking at the abyss, he took a deep breath and took another step forward. Kid, don't jump. If you reincarnate, Grandpa Crocodile will not let you go even if I become a ghost. Whooshing Crocodile was about to cry. Lin Tian was speechless and said contemptuously, "If you really reincarnate, you won't become a ghost. You won't let me go. When that time comes, you won't even remember me at all." Wishing crocodile. I hashtag yen, grow up. The little guy isn't afraid. It's quiet. What are you afraid of? Don't you feel ashamed? Lin Tian Andao. Wishing crocodile. I percent hashtag. Lin Tian glanced at it from the corner of his eyes. He was too lazy to say anything to it. Looking down into the abyss, his expression became extremely solemn. Then, he took a deep breath and used the reincarnation map to cover himself, the little Taichu, and the wishing crocodile. Then, he jumped down from the abyss. Ah! I'm going to die! I'm going to die! Wishing crocodile trembled and could not help but howl. Lin Tian's expression was grave. As he descended, he prayed silently in his heart, hoping that his intuition was not wrong. In the next moment, he, little Taichu, and wishing crocodile were submerged in the fog of the abyss. In an instant, rumbling sounds rang out in his ears as the hazy mist surged and surged towards him. As the mist surged over, his soul trembled violently. It was as if an invisible force was pulling at his soul, trying to pull it out. Moreover, this force became stronger and stronger as time passed. It was as if his soul was about to leave his body. Wishing crocodile and little Taichu felt the same and trembled. It's over! It's over! It's over! This is forcefully pulling Lord Crocodile's soul into the reincarnation cycle. Damn you, brat Lin! Wishing crocodile howled. Lin Tian's expression also changed. Was his intuition wrong? The reincarnation map of the king's territory couldn't isolate the power of this light mist? Buzz! Suddenly, his body trembled slightly, and his origin shook. For a moment, divine light surged, mixed with vastness, holiness, and majesty. Immediately, the reincarnation map trembled slightly and radiated brilliance. Then, in the next moment, his soul suddenly stabilized and no longer trembled. The pulling force on his soul disappeared instantly. That made his eyes light up. His intuition was right. The reincarnation map indeed isolated the power of the light mist. It's fine. Brat, you're good. Wishing crocodile became surprised. Like Lin Tianyi, the huge pulling force on his soul also disappeared at this time. Little Taichu cried out in a childish voice. Naturally, it was the same. Buzz! The reincarnation map flickered. Lin Tian used it as the main palm, enveloping himself, little Taichu, and wishing crocodile, and slowly fell into the deepest part of the abyss. Around them, souls continued to fall from the abyss, falling into the dazzling light mist, and then disappeared one by one. One man and two beasts were unharmed and continued to fall deeper. Then, gradually, their vision became dark. Lin Tian controlled the reincarnation map with his heart. Although he was nervous about the gradually darkening vision, he wasn't afraid. Now, the reincarnation map isolated the power of the dazzling light mist around them. He was already certain that they wouldn't be affected by the abyss. The reincarnation map intertwined with faint light, enveloping him, little Taichu, and wishing crocodile as they continued to fall. It was getting darker and darker around them. Suddenly his body shook. His sea of consciousness boiled involuntarily, and blurry images appeared abruptly. In the endless turbidity, a dazzling light mist appeared horizontally. 3 figures were faintly discernible. They seemed to be 2 men and a woman. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly, but one of them was fighting. The sky was full of stars, and thousands of layers of divine light surrounded the body, isolating the endless dazzling light mist. The powerful divine power even shattered the endless turbidity into a huge crack, with endless gods and demons roaring. Lin Tian's expression changed drastically, and he trembled violently. The endless turbidity and the dazzling light mist clearly showed the environment of the reincarnation road they had passed through, and that huge crack was the big crack in the chaotic world. That big crack was actually created by someone. Someone had broken the reincarnation. Swoosh! A faint sound was heard, and the images in his sea of consciousness suddenly disappeared. The next moment, an even thicker darkness enveloped him. Then, after an unknown amount of time, a strong force appeared in the darkness and shook him out. The reincarnation map circled above his head, and his vision became bright. As far as the eye could see, the mountains in front of him were connected to each other. The space was a little dim, and immortal spiritual energy and chaotic energy were everywhere. It was the chaotic world. They had come out. "Oh my God!" A heart-palpitating cry was heard. Whooshing Crocodile trembled and almost fell to the ground. At the same time, little Taichu also squeaked and opened his eyes wide. "Kid, did you see that strange scene?" Whooshing Crocodile stuttered again. Someone broke the reincarnation. Squeak! Squeak! Little Taichu opened his eyes wide and squeaked in a childish voice. All the hair on his body stood on end. Lin Tian's expression changed. "You saw it too?" Now, they had come out of the reincarnation road and were in the chaotic world. But at this time, they didn't have time to be happy at all. They were all shocked by the scene that appeared in their minds. Reincarnation, the supreme power of heaven and earth. It formed the root of heaven and earth, surpassing everything in the world. But once, someone actually broke a big crack in the reincarnation. How terrifying was that? Was it possible for a human to do that? "See, of course I saw it. Lord Crocodile is really... Oh woo!" Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble and howl. Little Taichu was also trembling. "Squeak, so scary!" Chapter 1858. Someone actually broke a big crack in reincarnation. This was a bit scary. The man and the two beasts were shocked. Who would believe such a thing if they told others? Thinking of this, the man and the two beasts were all in a daze. Subsequently, it wasn't until a full 10 breaths later that the man and the two beasts regained their senses. "I really don't know who that person is. It's simply..." Whooshing Crocodile trembled. Even reincarnation could be broken. This could no longer be described as terrifying. That person was no longer human. Lin Tian was also shocked, then shook his head. "Forget it. Let's not care about it." Although this matter horrified him, it had nothing to do with him after all. He didn't know who that person was, so he didn't bother to think about it. It didn't matter. At this time, he looked around and took a deep breath. The surrounding mountains and chaotic light surrounded them. They were already far away from the ancient road of reincarnation. "Speaking of which," Whooshing Crocodile spoke, looking at Lin Tian now. "With your reincarnation physique, if you cultivate to the end, will you be able to control reincarnation?" They could walk out of reincarnation entirely because of Lin Tian's reincarnation physique. Otherwise, they would be finished. At this time, looking at Lin Tian and thinking of Lin Tian's special physique that could avoid the influence of reincarnation, Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but have such an idea. "You think too much. It's absolutely impossible. It's already heaven-defying to control a trace of reincarnation power," Lin Tian now said. "Reincarnation is the root of the world. If someone really controls reincarnation, the world will really be in chaos. Whoever wants to live will live, and whoever wants to die will die. Well, Uncle Crocodile thinks so too. That kind of power is really not something that humans can control, and no one can control it," Whooshing Crocodile said, agreeing with Lin Tian's opinion. If someone really controlled reincarnation, the world would definitely be in chaos. Even little Taichu spoke in a childish voice, agreeing with Lin Tian's opinion. At this time, although they were still in the chaotic world, they were not near the previous reincarnation crack. "What are we going to do next?" Whooshing Crocodile asked. "Find the mixed sacred source," Lin Tian spoke. His eyes narrowed, interweaving with brilliant light. He said with a cold laugh. "Apart from this, send a great gift to the primal Chaos King." "What gift?" Whooshing Crocodile was puzzled. Little Taichu was also curious and looked at Lin Tian. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes and said, "Ask that old bastard to take a trip on the path of reincarnation." "What?" Whooshing Crocodile glared at him. Invite the King of Chaos to the reincarnation road? It glared at Lin Tian. Don't tell me, you're going to drag the King of Chaos into the great reincarnation crack again? Little Taichu also guessed this and glared at him. Lin Tian nodded. That's right. Is that so? Wishing Crocodile's eyes widened even more. Are you kidding? It's very dangerous inside. You still want to go in? It continued. Well, even if you can avoid the influence of the reincarnation road, how are you going to lure the King of Chaos in? That old bastard will suppress and take away the world seed when he sees you. How are you going to lure him in? Lin Tian was very calm. Didn't I bring out the corpse of the God Emperor of the Primal Chaos tribe? It's obvious that it was once a big shot of the Primal Chaos tribe. Say, if I enter it with my divine soul, use some special immortal medicine to make the corpse emit fluctuations of life, and then go to the sacred palace of the Primal Chaos tribe to find the King of Chaos, and say that I found a super divine item in the crack. Once I get it, I can step into the God Emperor realm. Do you think the King of Chaos will be tempted? He continued. Of course, the King of Chaos will definitely be afraid of that crack because it's very dangerous. However, since I've come out, I can tell him that I know how to leave. At the same time, he might be puzzled as to why I didn't bring out the super divine item when I found it. I'll tell him that such a divine item requires at least 6 God Emperors to get it. I remember that the Primal Chaos tribe, including the King of Chaos, seems to have a total of 5 God Emperors. Just nice, I can bring all of them to the reincarnation road. Hearing his words, Wishing Crocodile's eyes widened even more and it shuddered. You're a big scammer. Little Taichu also widened its eyes and looked shocked. From the sound of it, Lin Tian's idea was flawless. He told the King of Chaos and the others that there was a super divine object in the big crack, and that after refining it, they could step into the realm of Emperor God. This was simply too tempting. Anyone who heard it would be moved. Even if they knew that the big crack was extremely dangerous, they would definitely be unable to resist going inside. And as long as Lin Tian brought the King of Chaos and the others into the reincarnation road, it would completely be Lin Tian's world. This was because his reincarnation physique was not affected by the reincarnation road at all. As for the others, regardless of whether they were God Emperors or God Emperors, they would all be suppressed and forced to reincarnate, which was equivalent to death. Let's go. Before that, we need to thoroughly investigate all the information about that God Emperor corpse that I brought out. Lin Tian now. He wanted to use his divine soul to enter the Primal Chaos tribe's God Emperor corpse that he brought out from the reincarnation road to trick the King of Chaos. Naturally, he had to thoroughly investigate who this corpse was, his name, and everything that he had experienced in the past. Otherwise, it was very likely that an accident would happen. At that moment, he called out to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu and left. They walked into a desolate mountain and hid there. After that, in the blink of an eye, a total of 3 days passed. 3 Primal Chaos tribe cultivators passed by and they were all in the realm of real gods. Lin Tian took action right away and suppressed the 3 of them. Then, he spread his divine consciousness into their sea of consciousness to search for information about the God Emperor corpse that he brought out from the reincarnation road. It was only after half an hour that he withdrew his divine consciousness from the 3 people's sea of consciousness. He flicked his finger and released 3 rays of divine light to kill the 3 Primal Chaos real gods. How is it? Did you find it? Wishing Crocodile asked. Yes, I found it. Lin Tian nodded. The corpse that he brought out from the reincarnation road belonged to a God Emperor from the Primal Chaos tribe. Such a big shot naturally had a great reputation in the Primal Chaos tribe. Almost everyone in the Primal Chaos tribe knew that his name was Ji Xuan, and he was once a protector of the Primal Chaos tribe. At the same time, he also found out where the Primal Chaos Sacred Hall was from the 3 real gods' sea of consciousness. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out the Immortal Emperor Pagoda and summoned a corpse from it. As soon as the corpse appeared, a God Emperor-level aura immediately surrounded it, causing him, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu to feel uncomfortable. After all, their cultivation levels were far from a God Emperor's. Even though the God Emperor had disappeared, the God Emperor level aura that naturally filled the body was still very oppressive to them. Looking at this God Emperor's corpse, he took a deep breath. His spirit stepped out of his flesh shell and brought along a strand of reincarnation origin to wrap around his spirit. In the blink of an eye, it entered the God Emperor's corpse. In the God Emperor corpse, the meridians and blood were still there. When his spirit entered the corpse, it took him a total of 10 breaths to get used to it. He controlled the God Emperor corpse to stand up and opened its eyes. Then, he took out some special celestial medicine to make the God Emperor corpse show signs of life again. This is just like a living God Emperor. Wishing Crocodile stared. Chapter 1859. The immortal medicine that allowed the corpse to emit life aura was not very precious. The Emperor God corpse that Lin Tian had brought out from the reincarnation road emitted life aura. Coupled with the Emperor God aura that naturally intertwined outside its body, it was no different from a living Emperor God. The only difference was that its Emperor God aura was not as strong as that of an ordinary Emperor God. This Emperor God aura is much weaker than that of an ordinary early-stage Emperor God. This won't arouse any suspicion, right? Wishing Crocodile asked. No, it won't, Lin Tian now said. After all, it came from that land of peril. It can be understood that it was severely injured. It's normal for its Emperor God aura and combat strength to be weakened. If it's still the same as an ordinary Emperor God, it will arouse suspicion. As he spoke, he steered the immortal Emperor Pagoda and put his body into it. Then, he looked at Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu and said, Find a hidden place in this area. Don't go anywhere before I come out. Okay, don't worry. Wishing Crocodile nodded. Little Taichu flapped its wings and responded in a childish voice. Lin Tian nodded and reminded Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu to be absolutely careful. Then, he steered the Emperor God corpse into the distance. He had entered the Emperor God corpse with his God soul. There was still a lot of divine power left in the corpse, so it was very fast. A slight movement could shatter the void and travel more than 10,000 miles in a flash. After that, he tore the void several times. 6 hours later, he appeared in front of a vast royal city. Royal City covered a huge area. It was built with special divine metal and had a very strong aura of time. No one knew how long it had existed. It was the sacred land of the chaotic tribe, the chaotic sacred city. He steered the Emperor God corpse with his God soul and appeared here. The faint Emperor God aura immediately shocked the chaotic tribe powerhouses guarding the city gate outside the chaotic sacred city. All of them turned pale. Then, in the next moment, when they saw the true appearance of the Emperor God corpse that Lin Tian steered, they were shocked again. This is a former guardian of our tribe, Lord Ji Xuan. That's right. It really is. Wasn't that lord said to have been devoured by the most ancient forbidden area of our clan? He's still alive? Everyone was shocked. As an Emperor God level expert of the Primal Chaos tribe, he was naturally recorded in the Primal Chaos tribe's history books. Lin Tian naturally heard the discussions of the chaotic tribe cultivators and saw the shock on their faces. However, he didn't care about it and didn't stop. He controlled the Emperor God's corpse and flew into the holy city. Now, the corpse he was riding was an ancient divine emperor of the chaotic tribe. With such a status, it would be abnormal for him to stop and greet the ordinary cultivators of the chaotic tribe. Charging in directly was the best choice. As he steered this God Emperor corpse into the sacred city, the God Emperor's aura fluctuated and caused the entire sacred city to tremble. Lord Ji Xuan! Not dead! In the Saint City, the cultivators of the chaotic tribe were shocked. Lin Tian didn't care about these voices at all. He ignored the cultivators of the chaotic tribe and went straight to the center of the sacred city. Soon, he arrived in front of a temple in the center. It was the Primal Chaos temple of the chaotic tribe. The King of Chaos and the other Emperor Gods of the chaotic tribe lived here. He steered the Emperor God corpse to the temple and pushed the door open. At the same time, a few Emperor God auras spread out from the ancient temple. 5 figures appeared in front of him in an instant. The leader was the King of Chaos. Xiuan? Seeing Lin Tian controlling the Emperor God corpse, the King of Chaos was shocked. At the same time, the other 4 Chaos Guardians behind the King of Chaos were also shocked. They felt the presence of the Emperor God aura outside the temple and walked out together. They didn't expect to see someone who had disappeared in the history of their tribe. King! Lin Tian's soul entered the Emperor God corpse, and changed his voice to be exactly the same as Ji Xiuan's. He pretended to be excited and walked quickly to the King of Chaos and bowed slightly. The King of Chaos's eyes lit up and he was shocked. You are fine? Back then, this person was one of his guardians. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, he was sucked into that huge crack. He knew very well that the inside of that crack was definitely a land of death. Once sucked in, he would definitely die. But now, this person had reappeared in front of him. I'm fine. Your subject went through a lot of danger and escaped. Lin Tian steered the Emperor God corpse and spoke. He looked at the King of Chaos with an excited expression. Also, King, your subject found a super divine item. As long as you can get that divine item, Your Majesty might be able to step into the Emperor God realm. No, not maybe, it's definitely. He used his soul to control the Emperor God corpse called Ji Xiuan to speak. Just like what he said to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu before, he spoke about how he went through a lot of danger to escape from that huge crack. Although he found that super divine item, he couldn't bring it out with his own strength. He needed at least 6 Emperor God experts to work together. Your subject was tortured for hundreds of thousands of years and almost died several times. But because of that, I was lucky enough to find a way out. He steered the Emperor God corpse and looked at the King of Chaos, then looked at the other 4 Emperor Gods of this tribe. Then, he looked at the King of Chaos and pretended to be even more excited. Your Majesty, with your power, together with your subject and the other 4, we will definitely be able to enter that crack and retrieve that super divine item. At that time, Your Majesty will definitely be able to surpass the Emperor God level. At that time, the power of our tribe will skyrocket. The King of Chaos was moved. Inside that crack, there was a super divine item that could allow people to step into the Emperor God level after refining it. At the same time, behind him, the other 4 Emperor Gods of this tribe were also greatly shocked. A divine item that could allow one to step into the Emperor God level after refining it, this was too shocking. Surpassing the Emperor God level, to people like them, the temptation was simply too great. Are you sure? The King of Chaos spoke again. His eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at the Emperor God corpse that Lin Tian was steering. Your subject would not dare to deceive Your Majesty. There is a strange path inside that crack and there are many soul bodies traversing it. That super divine item is at the bottom of an abyss at the end of that path. Your subject discovered it from afar and could feel the terrifying divine power it contained. However, your subject did not dare to retrieve it. With your subject's power alone, I am unable to retrieve it. Lin Tian steered the Emperor God corpse as he spoke. Other than the super divine item that was false, everything else that he said was true. When the King of Chaos heard this, his eyes lit up and a bright light flashed in them. He actually knew a little about the actual situation inside that huge crack. There were existences that were even older than him who had told him about it. Now, what Lin Tian said while steered the Emperor God corpse was completely consistent with what he knew about the crack. This time, he completely believed it. The method you used to get out of there, after we enter again, can we still get out using the same method? He asked in a deep voice. Chapter 1860. In order to make the King of Chaos believe him completely, Lin Tian purposely said, a human is on the path of reincarnation, and he has an aura as vast as a great world. He believed that the King of Chaos already knew that he was forced to enter the crack. And now, when he said these words, the King of Chaos would naturally be able to guess who the human he was talking about was. He also naturally knew that the thing emitting the aura of a great world was the world seed. Sure enough, After hearing these words, the King of Chaos was completely moved. At the same time, the other 4 Chaos Guardians were also shocked. You saw that person? He's not dead yet? The King of Chaos growled. Why didn't you bring him out? Lin Tian's soul entered Ji Xuan's body and pretended to tremble. Your Majesty, you know that person? Is he very important? He has that world seed on him, the King of Chaos said in a deep voice. What? Regarding the discovery of the world seed in the immortal domain Lord Theological Seminary, the upper echelons of the Chaos tribe all knew about it. Ji Xuan, who Lin Tian entered, naturally knew as well. At this time, he made a shocked expression again. That person actually obtained that world seed? How is that possible? He seems to be a mere half-step heavenly god. As he spoke again. That's right, that thing has nothing to do with cultivation. That means that the human is not simple. As he spoke, he made a regretful expression. Damn it, I actually didn't think that he might have the world seed on him. He continued. However, at that time, I was in a hurry to come out and inform your Majesty about the super divine object that can be refined to the God Emperor level. I reckon that I didn't have time to suppress that person and bring him out. The King of Chaos's expression was not very good. It's not your fault. As he spoke, he asked, How long have you been out? Not long, at most an hour. Lin Tian's soul entered the God Emperor's corpse, and his voice sounded. After this subject escaped from that crack, this subject took some time to heal his wounds, and then immediately rushed back to the sacred hall as quickly as possible. The King of Chaos's eyes flashed. Good. That bug isn't simple. Since it was still alive an hour ago, then it shouldn't be dead now. Bring this seed in, suppress it, obtain the world seed, and then go get that super divine object. Upon hearing this, Lin Tian's spirit entered the main God Emperor's corpse. He was immediately overjoyed, but his expression was extremely solemn. Yes, Your Majesty, he transmitted his voice. On this day, he brought the King of Chaos and the other 4 Emperor Gods of the Primal Chaos clan to the Great Reincarnation Crack. As far as the eye could see, the Great Reincarnation Crack was surrounded by black light. Lin Tian found that it seemed to have become smaller than before. Although they were very small and insignificant, making it difficult for the naked eye to discern them, with his cultivation, he was naturally able to discern them. Samsara is repairing itself? He muttered to himself. Beside him, the Primal Chaos King and the other 4 God Emperors were also looking at the huge crack with fear. This crack appeared in my Primal Chaos world countless years ago. Now this king will tell you some of its true colors. The King of Chaos looked at the large crack, his voice extremely low. It is related to reincarnation. What? The 4 God Emperors of the Primal Chaos race were shocked. Lin Tian was also shocked. Of course, he was shocked because the King of Chaos had never entered this crack before, but he actually knew some things about it. This is related to reincarnation? Could it be that reincarnation is inside? One of the Primal Chaos protectors asked the King of Chaos. How did it appear in our world? How did it appear? Hearing that this crack was related to reincarnation, even the God Emperors could not help but be shocked. After all, reincarnation was the true foundation of heaven and earth. There was no power that could be compared to reincarnation. A reincarnation crack that was broken by someone. The King of Chaos's voice was low. Clearly, he knew a lot about this reincarnation crack. However, he did not say much. You only need to know that it is related to reincarnation. Don't think too much about it. It won't do you any good. As he spoke, he looked at Ji Xuan's corpse that Lin Tian's spirit had entered and asked again. Are you sure that you can really leave after entering? Because he knew that this crack was related to reincarnation, he was very confident when Lin Tian said that there was a super divine item that could allow one to enter the God Emperor realm after refining it. After all, it was very normal for such a super divine item to be hidden in reincarnation. However, it was indeed very dangerous to enter this crack now. Thus, he wanted to confirm whether he could really walk out safely after entering. Lin Tian put away his shock at the King of Chaos, knowing that this crack was related to reincarnation, and said seriously, "Definitely. I guarantee it with my life." The King of Chaos nodded. "All right, let's go in." Lin Tian's spirit was inside the God Emperor corpse. He nodded and said to the King of Chaos, "My king, I will go in first." By doing this and stepping into it first, he was naturally trying to lower the primal Chaos King's guard further. He took a step and stepped into the crack with a whoosh. When the Chaos King saw him step in without hesitation, he no longer had any doubts in his heart. He also stepped in. Then, the other 4 guardian god emperors also entered. The group stepped in and darkness enveloped the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, a vortex appeared and swallowed them. Then, they directly arrived at the Reincarnation Road. On the Reincarnation Road, both sides were turbid. Soul bodies stepped out from the turbidity and walked towards the end of the ancient road. "This is the inside of the Reincarnation Crack." The King of Chaos's eyes narrowed. At the same time, the other 4 guardian god emperors' expressions were solemn. They looked around and were extremely shocked. Then, all of them trembled. "My power has been suppressed by a lot. My spirit is a little unstable. It seems like it is about to leave my body. There is a voice telling me to reincarnate. Me too. Me too." The guardian god emperors spoke one after another. All of their expressions changed. "It's normal. After all, we are now in the Reincarnation Road. Everyone should focus and guard your spirit," the King of Chaos said. He was still very calm. However, it was also at this time that cold laughter sounded. Lin Tian entered the main God Emperor corpse with his spirit. He released a laugh and looked at the King of Chaos and the others. "We finally made it here." At this time, his attitude was clearly different from before. It made the King of Chaos and the others' expressions change. "Xiuan, what are you laughing at?" the King of Chaos said solemnly. At this time, he suddenly had an ominous feeling. Chapter 1861. Now that they were on the Reincarnation Road, Lin Tian didn't need to hide anything anymore. Here, even an Emperor God would be suppressed. And he was completely unaffected. So, at this time, he didn't need to fear anything at all. "It's you!" The King of Chaos' expression changed immediately. The other 4 Chaos Guardians were also shocked. Because of the World Seed, they all knew about Lin Tian. The King of Chaos had mentioned him before. "It's me." Lin Tian smiled. "How is it? Surprised? Surprised?" The King of Chaos's expression darkened at once, becoming extremely ugly. "You controlled him and broke out of here? Then you lured us here," he said coldly. At this time, he didn't need to think to know what was going on. Lin Tian walked out of the Reincarnation Crack half a year ago and lured them in to trick them. Seeing such an Emperor God corpse, and it just so happens that it was once a big shot of your Chaos tribe, I naturally had to make good use of it. Lin Tian smiled. The King of Chaos' expression darkened even more. Killing intent surged out immediately. At the same time, the other 4 Emperor Gods were also furious. They had been tricked. "Ant! How dare you!" one of them roared. "Ant or bug, you will all disappear." Lin Tian smiled faintly. His spirit entered the corpse again and sped toward the end of the ancient path. His spirit carried the origin of reincarnation, and his physical body was in the immortal Emperor Pagoda in the corpse, so he wasn't affected by the Reincarnation Road at all. The primal Chaos King's eyes were cold and filled with coldness. He took a step forward and closed in on Lin Tian, the God Emperor level primal chaos light rolling. "There's not much difference. I'll suppress you and take the world seed. Then I'll search your soul and get out of here," he said cruelly. Now, he could already guess that the super divine object that Lin Tian said could allow one to reach the Emperor God level after refinement was fake. It didn't exist. However, Lin Tian definitely knew how to get out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to lure them in after leaving here. As long as he could suppress Lin Tian, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to leave this place. Moreover, after suppressing Lin Tian, he could also take the world seed that he originally wanted. With a so sound, his speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was already far away. At the same time, the other 4 God Emperor level protectors' eyes turned cold. They were shocked and furious as they charged forward. Hong Long Long, the auras of 5 God Emperors surged, extremely frightening. Lin Tian turned around and glanced at the 5 of them with a faint smile. He didn't seem to care at all as he drove the Emperor corpse toward the end of the ancient road. Normally, if he were to be chased by 5 God Emperors like this, he would have long felt chills all over his body. He reckoned that he wouldn't even be able to move. But now, he wasn't afraid in the slightest because this was the reincarnation road and he was a reincarnated body. In here, he wasn't affected at all. His fighting power was even stronger than usual. Using his divine soul to drive the God Emperor corpse, he could display fighting power that was comparable to an early-stage God Emperor. As for the King of Chaos and the others, they would be greatly suppressed and their divine souls would be unstable. They would have to use a large amount of energy to stabilize their divine souls so that they wouldn't leave their bodies. Even a peak God Emperor like the King of Chaos could only display power that was slightly stronger than an early-stage God Emperor. As for the other 4, they would probably be able to display power that was comparable to a half-step God Emperor at most. They wouldn't be a threat to him. However, he didn't stop at that moment. Instead, he continued to go deeper into the ancient road. The deeper he went into the ancient road, the stronger the suppression of the ancient road of reincarnation on the King of Chaos and the others. It would cause their fighting power to become even lower. To him, it would be easier to kill them. He took a step forward and his speed was very fast. One step was tens of thousands of miles away. The King of Chaos and the others chased after him. Their faces were cold and their bodies were surging with monstrous divine power. Their murderous intent was frightening. However, their speed was limited as they were in the ancient road of reincarnation. The Emperor God corpse that Lin Tian was controlling was even stronger. As such, the distance between them and Lin Tian was never shortened. Then, in the blink of an eye, 6 hours passed. At that moment, the 4 protectors of the chaotic tribe trembled, and their eyes became blank. The divine souls in their bodies were shaking and there was an unknown force that was pulling them out of their bodies. The King of Chaos was slightly better than them. After all, he had the King of Chaos body, and he was at the level of a peak God Emperor. His eyes didn't become blank but his King of Chaos body started to tremble. "Steady!" the King of Chaos roared. The 5 of them were Emperor Gods after all. They activated their divine skills and very quickly, their bodies stopped trembling and their divine souls stabilized. However, at that moment, there was an ear-piercing sound. Lin Tian controlled the Emperor God corpse and came back in the opposite direction. "I'll send all of you on your way." He controlled the Emperor God corpse and his divine soul carried the reincarnation origin. On the reincarnation road, it was enough for the Emperor God corpse to unleash extremely strong divine power. In a flash, he appeared in front of one of the chaotic protectors. He swung his fist and pressed it down. With a thud, his fist landed firmly on the protector's body. The protector spat out blood and flew away. Immediately after, under the influence of this punch, this person's body trembled violently once more, and his eyes became confused once more. After that, in the next moment, his divine soul forcefully stepped out of his body and walked towards the end of the ancient path in a daze. This place was much closer to the end of the ancient road than before. It was already difficult for an Emperor God expert to stabilize his divine soul. Then, after being hit by Lin Tian's punch, his divine soul became unstable and he was pulled out of the reincarnation road. Lin Tianling smiled. Without hesitation, he controlled the Emperor God corpse and took a step forward. He raised his hand and took out a strand of Emperor God's divine power and Emperor God level God law from the Emperor God corpse. He slammed it down on the divine soul mercilessly. Pooh! With a chi sound, he controlled the Emperor God corpse. The palm imprint landed on the divine soul of this protector, shattering it. "Fourth brother!" A furious roar sounded. The other three protectors of the primal chaos race were shocked and furious. At the same time, their hearts trembled. The four of them were early-stage God Emperor realm primal chaos protectors and were comparable in strength. But now, one of them had disappeared just like that. His divine soul had been shattered and he could no longer appear in this world. He had completely fallen. The king of primal chaos had an ugly expression. He glared at Lin Tian. "Human!" Lin Tianling smiled. He did not speak any nonsense with the king of primal chaos. He used his divine soul to control the Emperor God corpse and walked forward. "The rest of you should follow me," he said. Using his divine soul to control the Emperor God corpse, he arrived in front of one of the protectors in the blink of an eye. He raised his hand and punched out. With a pin, as expected, this primal chaos protector was struck. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew away. After that, just like the previous Emperor God protector, his divine soul was pulled out by the mysterious energy of the reincarnation road. He became sluggish. Chapter 1862. An Emperor God was very powerful. Even if one wanted to kill an early-stage Emperor God, it would be very difficult unless one also had the power of an Emperor God. However, although Lin Tian did not have the power of an Emperor God, he had the corpse of an Emperor God. He could unleash the power of an Emperor God on the reincarnation road. Moreover, the King of Chaos and the other four were suppressed and their god souls were unstable. As such, the battle was in Lin Tian's favor. It was not difficult for him to kill an Emperor God here. "Human!" The King of Chaos's eyes were cold, and he was even more furious. In a short moment, 2 Emperor God protectors from the chaotic tribe had died. The person who killed the 2 Emperor God protectors was only a half-step heavenly god. "Why are you not affected?" Looking at Lin Tian controlling the corpse of an Emperor God with his god soul, he asked coldly. Obviously, he could see that Lin Tian was not affected at all on the reincarnation road. At the same time, the other 2 Emperor God protectors saw this too, and they were furious. "I have a good character." Lin Tianling smiled. As he said this, he did not stop moving. He controlled the corpse of an Emperor God and closed in on the last 3 people. "Stabilize your god souls and retreat back. Don't fight him head-on for now," the King of Chaos said coldly. As a peak Emperor God, he was naturally not stupid. He knew that after traveling a distance from their initial position to here, their god souls would become very unstable. However, Lin Tian was not affected at all. As such, it was definitely not a good choice to fight Lin Tian here. The other 2 Emperor God protectors naturally thought of this too. They nodded and quickly retreated back the way they came. "We've already come this far. Why are you retreating?" Lin Tian said coldly. His speed was very fast, and each step he took covered an endless distance. He fully unleashed the divine power of the divine Emperor corpse, and forcefully blocked their path of retreat. Then, he used the remaining divine power and divine rules in the divine Emperor corpse to unleash the Chaos Emperor's fist. Roar! Roar! The roar of a dragon and the cry of a phoenix reverberated. He did not hold back and went all out. All of a sudden, a dragon's shadow appeared, and a phoenix's shadow appeared. They intertwined with a majestic force and pressed down on the 3 of them. King Hun Dun's expression was cold as he directly activated his super divine ability to face the attack. At the same time, the other 2 God Emperor protectors also activated their great divine abilities and stabilized their divine souls. However, on this path of reincarnation, the 3 of them were severely suppressed. Their battle prowess dropped significantly. Apart from the King of Chaos, who could still contend against the God Emperor corpse that Lin Tian was controlling, the other 2 God Emperor protectors really didn't have much resistance. Boom! The divine powers of the 4 men collided and intertwined with one another. Lin Tian controlled the God Emperor corpse and stepped forward. He crossed the sky full of divine light and appeared in front of another God Emperor protector in an instant. This God Emperor Protector's expression immediately changed as he retreated rapidly. However, Lin Tian had already appeared in front of him. How could he allow him to retreat? He immediately threw out a punch. It was still the Primal Chaos Emperor fist, and it landed directly on his opponent's head. Pooh! Blood splattered. He threw out a punch with the God Emperor corpse and smashed this person's head into pieces. At the same time, this person's body trembled. His divine soul was drawn out by the special power of the path of reincarnation, and he became sluggish. Lin Tian waved his hand and controlled the God Emperor corpse. He slapped down and smashed this person's divine soul into pieces. On the path of reincarnation, it's so easy to kill God Emperors, he whispered. As he spoke, he turned his head to look at the King of Chaos and the last God Emperor Protector. Without any hesitation, he directly pressed forward. With a boom, he waved his hand and used the Primal Chaos Emperor fist again. The Divine Dragon's shadow and the Phoenix's shadow appeared together and bombarded the two of them. Ants! Don't be too proud! The King of Chaos's eyes were cold. With a boom, a treasure cauldron rushed out from behind him, intertwining with chaotic light. As this treasure cauldron appeared and hung above the King of Chaos's head, his aura couldn't help but rise. It was obviously much stronger than before. A pinnacle Emperor weapon! Lin Tian's expression changed. The Emperor weapon-level Primal Chaos Cauldron floated above the King of Chaos's head. The King of Chaos stared at Lin Tian with bone-chilling coldness and directly pressed forward. Originally, he didn't want to use this cauldron because although this cauldron was powerful, it was his divine origin weapon and was related to his divine soul. Now that he used this cauldron, although his fighting power was much stronger, there was a disadvantage on the path of reincarnation. That was, his divine soul would become more unstable. If he wasn't careful, his divine soul would be drawn out by the path of reincarnation. However, at this time, he had no other choice. Seeing the Primal Chaos Protectors being killed by Lin Tian one after another, and Lin Tian's aura becoming stronger and stronger, he felt great danger and could only use this killing cauldron. Boom! Once the Primal Chaos Cauldron was out, even though the King of Chaos was still suppressed by the path of reincarnation and couldn't reach his peak fighting power, it was enough to be comparable to a middle-stage Emperor God. His speed increased a lot and in the blink of an eye, he was close to Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly and quickly retreated. When he lured the King of Chaos and the others to the path of reincarnation, he had considered the fighting power of the five of them and analyzed how the five of them would be suppressed on the path of reincarnation. However, he neglected something like an Emperor weapon. Moreover, the Primal Chaos Cauldron that the King of Chaos took out at this time was obviously not an ordinary Emperor weapon. It was definitely forged with super divine materials and its power was too terrifying. At this moment, he, who had an absolute advantage on the path of reincarnation, couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. However, even though he was a little apprehensive, he wasn't afraid because this was the path of reincarnation. As a reincarnated body, this place was his absolute battlefield. He retreated at a very fast speed and was boundless away in a flash. The King of Chaos didn't hesitate and chased after him. He took out the Primal Chaos Cauldron and his divine soul became even more unstable. He couldn't take out the Primal Chaos Cauldron for too long. The longer he maintained it, the more dangerous it would be for him on the path of reincarnation. Therefore, he had to suppress Lin Tian in the shortest time possible. Only by suppressing Lin Tian could he possibly leave this place alive. Lin Tian saw the King of Chaos chasing after him and roughly knew what the other party was thinking at this moment. He quickened his pace. After an unknown period of time, wisps of white fog suddenly appeared on the path of reincarnation in front of him. He glanced at the King of Chaos who was chasing behind him and used the origin of reincarnation to protect his body and rushed into the fog. The King of Chaos controlled the Primal Chaos Cauldron and rushed in without hesitation. However, the moment he rushed in, his King of Chaos body trembled and quickly retreated. Damn it! The moment he rushed into the white fog, his memory was in a mess and a lot of it disappeared. He even forgot how to use some divine abilities and secret techniques. This natural Mengpa soup, no, Mengpa fog, how does it taste? Chapter 1863. Dong! With a loud bang, Lin Tian swung the Chaos Emperor fist, and the dragon and phoenix shadows appeared again. The dragon and phoenix shadows changed direction and appeared behind the King of Chaos. They roared and charged at the King of Chaos, preventing him from retreating out of the white fog. The King of Chaos naturally saw through Lin Tian's intentions. He was furious as he smashed the Chaos Cauldron toward the dragon and phoenix shadows. Boom! The two collided and exploded with divine light. The dragon and phoenix shadows were immediately shattered. However, at this moment, Lin Tian controlled the God Emperor corpse and appeared behind the King of Chaos. He strengthened the Chaos Emperor fist and punched out fiercely. This punch landed firmly on the King of Chaos' back. The King of Chaos trembled and was smashed deeper into the white fog. And, after being smashed deeper into the white fog, the King of Chaos trembled even more violently. Although he did not suffer any substantial damage, his memory was rapidly fading, and his spirit became even more unstable. He roared in anger and controlled the Chaos Cauldron to protect himself. He once again charged out of the strange white fog. Don't even think about leaving once you're in! Lin Tianling laughed. He had encountered the white fog on the reincarnation road before. It could erase the memories of living beings. He purposely lured the King of Chaos here. How could he let the King of Chaos out now? Being in this, the battle situation was even more advantageous to him. Even if the King of Chaos took out a peak-level Emperor Divine weapon, he would not be a threat to him here. He stepped forward and swung the Chaos Emperor fist again. His attack was simple and violent. Get lost! The King of Chaos roared. He shook the Chaos Cauldron and attacked Lin Tian. He looked anxious and anxious. Being in this, his memory was constantly fading. If this continued, he would gradually forget who he was. This was even more terrifying than being severely injured. Moreover, being in this, his spirit became even more unstable. It seemed like it could be forced out of his body at any time. As such, he did not dare to continue staying in this place. At this time, he attacked Lin Tian with all his strength. With a rumble, the Chaos Cauldron shook violently. The chaotic light boiled and surged violently. It was intimidating. King of Chaos, you're weaker than before, Lin Tian said. At the same time, his fist was in front of the King of Chaos. Boom! 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 The two collided, and a destructive shockwave erupted. Lin Tian's godly soul entered the Emperor God's corpse and trembled violently a few times. His godly soul was almost shaken out of the Emperor God's corpse by the King of Chaos. He couldn't help but feel astonished. He couldn't help but admit that a peak Emperor God like the King of Chaos was really terrifying. Now that he was on the reincarnation road and was in this strange fog that was constantly erasing his memories, he still had such godly power. Towards this, he couldn't help but become even more solemn and raise his attention to 120% because he was really afraid that he would fail miserably at such an easy task. Boom! 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 Divine power vibrated continuously as they clashed again and again. In the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. Scram! The King of Primal Chaos let out a furious roar. At this moment, his body trembled violently, and the divine power fluctuations outside his body became incomparably chaotic. His aura was clearly much weaker, and soul light scuttled out. Clearly, the King of Chaos was about to reach his limit after spending an entire hour in this strange mist. Most of his memories had been erased, and his soul was about to be forced out of his body. From the moment you stepped into this place, your ending was already decided. You can only have your body and soul destroyed. Lin Tianling smiled. He used his godly soul to control the Emperor God's corpse and brandished the Chaos Emperor fist. He avoided the Chaos Cauldron and landed a punch on the King of Chaos. With a bang, the King of Chaos was sent flying and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. The soul light outside his body became denser, and his divine power became even more chaotic. Lin Tian didn't stop. He didn't give the other party any time to react and press forward again. Roar! Roar! He brandished the Chaos Emperor fist, and the dragon and phoenix shadows appeared again. They let out dragon and phoenix cries and drowned out the King of Chaos. The King of Chaos wanted to dodge, but the current situation was really terrible to the extreme. It was simply impossible to dodge. The next moment, the dragon and phoenix shadows approached and drowned him with a bang. With a bang, the King of Chaos was sent flying again. His godly soul became even more unstable, and the soul light that spread outside his body became denser. You can't go on. Don't force yourself to hold on, Lin Tiantan said indifferently. After being in this strange mist for such a long time, even though the King of Chaos had the chaotic king physique and was at the level of a peak emperor god, he couldn't withstand it anymore. This was because this was within reincarnation, the most supreme and most fundamental power of heaven and earth. In this kind of power, even the strongest emperor god wouldn't be enough. Human! Ant! Damn despicable thing! The King of Chaos roared, and his eyes were red. I'm unwilling to accept this. I was schemed against by a worm like you. At this time, he was very clear that he couldn't take it anymore. He was already forced into a desperate situation on the reincarnation road. This made him angry and regretful. He was the king of a clan, a peak emperor god, but now he was actually lured into the reincarnation road by a half-step heavenly god-level human and was about to disappear. If I die, you die too! He stared at Lin Tian and roared angrily. With a boom, his body suddenly expanded like a balloon. At the same time, the divine light on the cauldron of chaos became chaotic. In an instant, cracks appeared, and an extremely terrifying aura of destruction spread out. He couldn't take it anymore. His godly soul was about to be forced out of his body. Moreover, he had been in the reincarnation road for quite some time. He was very clear that once his godly soul left his body, he would be finished. Since he was going to be finished, he wanted to drag Lin Tianyi along. At this moment, he decisively detonated his physical body, godly soul, and chaotic cauldron. Lin Tian's expression changed. He naturally saw what the King of Chaos was doing. He felt a chill down his spine and ran away without looking back. A peak emperor god with the chaotic king physique self-destructed along with a peak emperor weapon. He didn't even dare to imagine the destructive power after that. Swoosh! His speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he was extremely far away. It was also at this moment that the King of Chaos and chaotic cauldron exploded together. The destructive waves rolled, and it was extremely terrifying. Lin Tian's speed was very fast. He was already very far away. However, the destructive waves after the King of Chaos self-destructed were even faster. In the blink of an eye, it swept in front of him. Lin Tian's godly soul trembled and his expression changed. Because at this moment, he couldn't avoid the destructive waves at all. Once he was swept in by the destructive waves, he didn't need to think to know the outcome. He would definitely die and his body and soul would be destroyed. However, in the next moment, his eyes couldn't help but widen. The destructive waves after the King of Chaos self-destructed swept in front of him, and it stopped spreading. He hurriedly retreated a few hundred feet and looked in front of him again. He realized that the destructive power after the King of Chaos self-destructed extended to the front and back of the ancient road for a range of 10,000 feet. It stopped spreading and the destructive power was limited to this range. Chapter 1864. The self-destruction of an Emperor God expert and a pinnacle Emperor divine weapon was terrifying. It could cover more than 10,000 zhang and it could even destroy a macro world. Edited by Lifer, Fingerfox. However, the King of Chaos and the Peak Emperor weapon had both self-destructed, but the destruction had only spread to a radius of 100,000 feet. This was completely abnormal. The only reason he could think of was the influence of the reincarnation road. He shook his head and felt sorry for the King of Chaos. He thought he could take him with him after self-destruction, but the effect of the reincarnation road only covered 100,000 feet. However, in the next moment, his expression changed again. In front of him, a ray of divine light appeared in the destructive waves. A strange talisman appeared, intertwined with a familiar aura. Reincarnation chi? His expression changed. The aura of this talisman was very similar to the aura of the reincarnation road. Following the appearance of this talisman, the destructive light waves caused by the self-destruction of the King of Chaos vibrated and began to shrink back. Then, in the next moment, the King of Chaos' physical body reformed and opened his eyes. Lin Tian was shocked. The King of Chaos who had self-destructed had come back to life. In front of him, the King of Chaos' physical body reformed. His eyes were filled with shock and astonishment as he looked at the floating talisman. The ancient talisman that the Lord gave me. Back then, because of some great merit, he was bestowed this ancient talisman by an incomparably ancient existence. At that time, he didn't sense what this ancient talisman was, nor did he ask what it was. Who would have thought that after he self-destructed, this ancient talisman would actually allow him to be reborn? Ka! A cracking sound was heard. Cracks appeared on the ancient talisman, and a strange light leaked out, enveloping the King of Chaos. His physical body immediately became faint. Lin Tian's expression changed again. It seemed that the King of Chaos was not going to be harmed, but was being taken away by the reincarnation chi on the ancient talisman to leave the reincarnation road. The King of Chaos clearly felt this as well. At this moment, he was relieved. He could leave. At the same time, he looked at Lin Tian coldly. "Aunt?" His voice was extremely cold. Before his figure faded to the extreme, he raised his hand and blasted out a beam of chaotic killing light towards Lin Tian. With a boom, this chaotic killing light was extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the God Emperor corpse that Lin Tian had entered with his spirit. Pooh! Blood splattered, and the sturdy God Emperor corpse was directly shattered by him. Lin Tian's spirit flew out and wrapped around the immortal Emperor pagoda. For a moment, large cracks appeared on his spirit. It was also at this time that the King of Chaos's body faded away, leaving only a pair of extremely cold eyes. He looked at Lin Tian's soul that flew out and said, "Lowly worm, when you walk out of here, I will make you suffer for eternity." Once these words were spoken, the primal Chaos King's physical body completely disappeared, forcibly leaving this path of reincarnation. Lin Tian's soul floated on the path of reincarnation. Because it carried the origin of reincarnation, it was not affected by the path of reincarnation. Someone behind the Chaos King controls the power of reincarnation? Looking at the place where the King of Chaos disappeared, his pupils constricted. The reincarnation energy on that ancient talisman was extremely weak, but as a reincarnated being, he could not be wrong. There was indeed a trace of the power of reincarnation on it. He was horrified. In this world, there was already someone who controlled the power of reincarnation. This was definitely a very terrifying thing. Because controlling the power of reincarnation meant that one already controlled a trace of the world's reincarnation. This was very shocking. Just how powerful was that existence? How many reincarnations did he control? He felt a chill down his spine. Just like what he had said to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu before, reincarnation was the foundation of the world. Once someone completely controlled reincarnation, the world would definitely fall into chaos. This kind of thing should not be controlled by anyone. At the same time, he finally understood why the invincible human kings on the side of Celestial venerate Zhang Long, and the others had also suffered at the hands of the Chaos King and the others. It turned out that the forces behind the Chaos King and the others were so terrifying that there was an existence who controlled the power of reincarnation. Controlling a few reincarnations? Even the invincible human king would not have a chance of winning against that kind of existence, right? His heart was very heavy. Whoosh! On the path of reincarnation, a gentle breeze suddenly swept up, wisps of wind. Behind him, a soul walked over with a dull expression, walking mechanically toward the end of the path of reincarnation. Lin Tian looked over. This soul was one of the 4 protectors of the Chaos tribe of this generation, named Luo Zihui. He was the only remaining divine emperor protector on the path of reincarnation. When the Chaos King was chasing after him, this person did not follow. Now it seemed that he was affected by the path of reincarnation, and his soul had been forced out of his body. He took out the physical body from the immortal Emperor Pagoda, and his soul entered it. Then he looked at this person's soul, raised his hand, grabbed it, and used the reincarnation diagram to erase the consciousness of this person's soul. Then, he used his divine will to explore this soul, searching for information about the mixed sacred source. He believed that as the current divine emperor protector of the Chaos tribe, this person should know some clues. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. "There is one in the Chaos Temple." A light flashed in his eyes. The mixed sacred source was priceless. After refining it, one could turn into a powerful chaotic body. Even in the Chaos world, it was a super rare treasure. There was such a piece in the Chaos Temple, and it had been kept secret for hundreds of thousands of years. Even though such an item could turn ordinary members of the chaotic tribe into a chaotic body, the King of Chaos did not give it away because such an item was too precious. It also had other uses. How do I get it in the Chaos Temple? Originally, if his previous plan had not gone wrong, the Chaos King and the others would all be buried on this ancient road. He would be almost invincible in the Chaos world without any celestial emperors, and it would not be difficult for him to find the Chaos Saint Source and the Soul Saint Source. But now, the Chaos King was not dead and had safely left this ancient road, so he must have returned to the Chaos Temple. In this case, it would be extremely difficult for him to go to the Chaos Temple to get the mixed sacred source. He stood in place and pondered. After dozens of breaths, his eyes suddenly moved, and he could not help but squint. "Chaos, old bastard, when I get out, I will give you a big gift," he muttered to himself. As he spoke, he grabbed the soul of this Luo nitrogen scholar and walked toward the back of the ancient road. Not long after, he found this person's physical body and placed this person's soul into it, so that this person's physical body and soul became one, and he opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with confusion and dullness, because his consciousness had been erased by him just now. "Old man, you self-destructed to kill me. I will give you a self-destructing divine emperor." He laughed sinisterly. Chapter 1865. This primal Chaos tribe protector named Luo Lanchu had lost his own consciousness. He had become a living puppet. Lin Tian controlled him and put him into the immortal Emperor Pagoda. After that, he walked to the back of the reincarnation path and put away the 2 well-preserved corpses of the primal Chaos tribe protectors. The God Emperor level flesh shell was definitely a great weapon of mass destruction. It was extremely valuable. After doing that, he didn't stop and walked to the end of the reincarnation path. After that, he walked with all his might. It took him 3 months to reach the end of the reincarnation path and reach the abyss. When he reached the edge of the abyss, he took out the reincarnation map and was about to jump down. However, he hesitated and stopped. Looking down, he couldn't see the bottom of the abyss. There was a hazy light mist below. This light mist was dark gray. He couldn't sense any energy fluctuation, and he couldn't sense any dangerous aura. "I wonder if I can bring some of this out," he muttered to himself. Although this dark gray mist didn't have any energy fluctuation or dangerous aura, he knew that this thing was definitely terrifying. It could probably even devour God Emperors. Right now, the most powerful vessel he had was undoubtedly the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He paused, gritted his teeth, and took out the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He carefully descended, preparing to use the immortal Emperor Pagoda to absorb some of the gray fog. He controlled it very carefully. Soon, the immortal Emperor Pagoda arrived at the bottom of the abyss and took in some of the gray mist. "Chi!" With a soft sound, a corner of the immortal Emperor Pagoda broke. Lin Tian's expression changed. He quickly put away the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Looking at the broken corner of the immortal Emperor Pagoda, he felt his heart ache. In the past, when the Immortal Emperor Pagoda was broken into pieces, it could be easily reassembled without any loss. However, this time, the broken corner was completely broken, and it had lost a portion of its primordial essence. He used his divine power to move the primordial essence in the other parts of the Immortal Emperor Pagoda, mending the broken corner. Although it was mended, its power would be weaker than before. Although it was only a tiny bit weaker, he still felt his heart ache. This was his divine weapon of origin. He looked at the abyss and the dark gray mist. He couldn't accept it. This thing was absolutely terrifying. As long as he brought out even a trace of it, it could turn into a super-killing weapon. He was really envious of it. I wonder if it'll work if I wrap it with a bit of my reincarnation origin light, he muttered to himself. Previously, he had used the reincarnation diagram to isolate this dark gray mist. Then, he brought the wishing crocodile and the little Taichu away from this reincarnation road. After thinking about it, if he used his own reincarnation origin light as a membrane, perhaps he could bring away a trace of this thing. When he thought of this, he immediately moved. He took out a wisp of reincarnation origin light to absorb the gray fog again. He was extremely careful. This time, he sucked in a wisp of this gray fog, and wrapped it in the reincarnation source light. The gray fog jumped slightly and then calmed down. It really works! His eyes lit up. Immediately he began to move. He used some of his reincarnation origin light as a barrier and carefully swept up strand after strand of this dark gray fog. In the end, he only stopped when he had collected a head-sized cluster of dark gray fog. The size of the head was very small, but this thing itself was very terrifying. It was already very scary to collect so much of it. Moreover, he didn't dare to collect too much of it. If he carried too much of this thing with him, it would explode. Even if he was a reincarnated body, he would still be in danger. After all, he couldn't always use the reincarnation diagram and reincarnation origin light to protect himself. If he carried too much of this thing and it suddenly exploded, it would directly destroy his physical body and spirit. And once his physical body and spirit were destroyed, even if his reincarnation origin was preserved, it would be useless. If both his physical body and spirit were destroyed, then his body and spirit would be destroyed. He wrapped the head-sized dark gray fog with the reincarnation origin light, and carefully put it into the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. This time, the Immortal Emperor Pagoda was very stable. This made him let out a long sigh of relief. At the end of reincarnation, this thing, let's call it reincarnation matter, he muttered to himself. The next moment, with a buzzing sound, the reincarnation diagram propped up and protected his physical body. He directly jumped down from the abyss. Not long after, darkness covered his vision. Then, it became bright again. He left the reincarnation road and reappeared in the chaotic world. He could feel the chaotic aura intertwining in the air of the chaotic world. Let's find those two guys first, he said, and directly tore open a void passage. Not long after, he appeared in a desolate ancient mountain and spread out his divine consciousness. Not long after, two rays of light rushed out from the depths of the mountain. It was the wishing crocodile and the little Taichu. Kid, you didn't go to the reincarnation road? The King of Chaos is still outside, the wishing crocodile said. But what exactly did you do? 3 months ago, the King of Chaos was furious. The chaotic light pierced a huge hole in the sky. It took a full 7 days to recover. In the entire chaotic world, almost all the cultivators of the chaotic tribe are on the move. It's 10 times more exaggerated than before. Almost every distance, there is a group of cultivators of the chaotic tribe searching for you. During this period, the cultivators of the chaotic tribe were almost on the move. They were madly searching for Lin Tian's traces in the chaotic world. Just the mountain where he and the little Taichu were hiding alone was searched by more than 100 groups of cultivators of the chaotic tribe. There were a few times when they almost found them. Lin Tian heard this and did not have any doubts. When the King of Chaos escaped from the reincarnation road, he did not need to think to know that he would be extremely angry. He did not hide anything and simply explained what happened after he lured the King of Chaos and the others into the reincarnation road. What? There is someone behind the King of Chaos who can control the power of reincarnation? The whooshing crocodile's expression changed immediately. He did not care that the 4 chaotic tribe god emperor protectors of this generation had died on the reincarnation road. He was shocked by the ancient talisman with the power of reincarnation. Even little Alpha Primordium's eyes were wide open in shock. The King of Chaos and the Grand Supreme are in the same camp. The power behind these old farts is so terrifying. The whooshing crocodile's heart palpitated. It's terrifying. Lin Tian Andao. After saying this, he did not continue to discuss this matter with the whooshing crocodile and the little Tai Chu. He asked them to leave. Let's go to the sacred city of chaos and give the King of Chaos a big gift. He said so. What gift? The whooshing crocodile stared. How are you going to trick that old fart? Not this time. Lin Tianling smiled. This time, it's more direct. What do you mean? What are you going to do? Fight head-on? The whooshing crocodile was surprised. The little Tai Chu also tilted his little head and looked at him curiously. Don't worry. You'll know when the time comes. Chapter 1866. The sacred city of chaos wasn't very close to where they were now. It would take a long time to get there. Lin Tian called out to the whooshing crocodile and little Tai Chu and stepped out of this place. Chaos cultivators were almost everywhere in the chaos realm. They were all searching for Lin Tian. The man and the 2 beasts carefully avoided these cultivators. It took them about a month to get to the outskirts of the sacred city of chaos. At this time, the number of chaotic tribe cultivators in the sacred city of chaos had decreased by more than half. Most of them had left to search for him in various parts of the world. The King of Chaos should still be in this city, Lin Tian muttered to himself. In a no-man's land outside the sacred city of chaos, he took out the immortal Emperor Pagoda and called out the Chaos Protector named Luo Nitakwi. Divine Emperor! He's alive? Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. Don't worry. This is one of the 4 Chaos Protectors. I've already erased his consciousness from the cycle of reincarnation. Lin Tian now. He told the whooshing crocodile and little Tai Chu that he'd killed the 4 Chaos Protectors, but he didn't go into too much detail. At least, the whooshing crocodile and the little guy didn't know what the 4 Chaos Protectors looked like. Whooshing crocodile's expression changed. There are fluctuations of life on him. It's not caused by immortal medicine, is it? You didn't kill him? No. I kept him for the King of Chaos. Lin Tian smiled sinisterly. Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble. Kid, you're smiling so slyly. What are you planning? You'll find out soon enough. Lin Tian now. With that, he sent out a wave of telekinesis and called out, Luo Nitakwi, to step into the sacred city of chaos. Then he called out to the whooshing crocodile and little Tai Chu, and they retreated into the distance. You can control the Chaos Protectors? And why are you retreating into the distance after coming here? Whooshing Crocodile was confused. Little Tai Chu looked at Lin Tian curiously. His consciousness has been erased by me. Now, he is equivalent to a simple puppet. Naturally, he will listen to my orders and can be controlled. Lin Tian explained. As for why we're retreating, it's still the same. You'll know soon enough. He took Whooshing Crocodile and little Tai Chu and left the sacred city of primal chaos very quickly. It was at this time that the Chaos Protector named Luo Nazui, under his control, walked to the center of the sacred city of primal chaos. Some of the cultivators in the sacred city of primal chaos paid their respects, so naturally, no one dared to stop them. After all, among the ordinary chaos tribe cultivators, this person was a super big shot. Alright, that's about it. He spoke. They were now 1,000,000 feet away from the sacred city of primal chaos. It was impossible to see the sacred city of primal chaos with ordinary eyes. However, for a powerful cultivator like him, he could use his powerful divine consciousness to scan that place. He shouted in that direction, Chaos Protector, come out and receive your gifts! His voice was mixed with a powerful divine consciousness, and it was directed in a specific direction. In the blink of an eye, it resounded throughout the sacred city of primal chaos. In the sacred city of primal chaos, the cultivators of the Chaos tribe who stayed behind were shocked. They all turned to look in the direction of the voice, and then naturally, they scanned Lin Tian with their divine consciousness. It's him! The human that the king wants to suppress! Catch him! The cultivators of the Chaos tribe all looked cold. Among them, there were even divine emperors. They immediately rushed toward Lin Tian. However, at this time, the sacred city of primal chaos shook violently. The Chaos Protector stepped out of the sacred city of primal chaos. King! The cultivators of the Chaos tribe who were about to rush toward Lin Tian all stopped and bowed in unison. The Chaos Protector didn't care about these people at all. He looked in the direction of Lin Tian's voice and said, "Aunt?" His voice was extremely cold. When he thought of everything that had happened on the reincarnation road, the murderous intent in his heart rushed out and turned into terrifying waves. It was so terrifying that the nearby cultivators of the Chaos tribe all spat out blood and flew away. Then, like the other cultivators of the Chaos tribe in the sacred city of primal chaos, he directly stepped toward Lin Tian. Don't be in such a hurry, Chaos Protector. Let's see who else is in the sacred city of primal chaos. I have sent back one of your protectors. Lin Tian stood 1,000,000 feet away from the sacred city of primal chaos. He scanned the sacred city with his divine consciousness and said. The Chaos Protector tilted his head and immediately saw the protector named Luo Lanqiu. His eyes immediately narrowed. When he was still on the reincarnation road, 3 of the 4 protectors had died. Only this last one was left. He had escaped the reincarnation road thanks to the special ancient talisman. He was sure that the last protector of the Chaos Protector on the reincarnation road would definitely die. However, at this moment, this protector was not dead. He was sent back to the sacred city of primal chaos by Lin Tian. He suddenly had a bad feeling because he didn't think that Lin Tian would be kind enough to send him back. Lin Tian stood 1,000,000 feet away and scanned the sacred city of primal chaos with his divine consciousness. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Explode!" As soon as he said that, the body of the protector named Luo Lanqiu in the sacred city of primal chaos shook. A destructive aura instantly spread out. His entire body began to glow and self-destruct. The Chaos Protector's expression changed immediately. You boom! There was a huge explosion. The consciousness of the Chaos Protector named Luo Lanqiu was erased by Lin Tian. He was completely a puppet. Under Lin Tian's will, he was ready to self-destruct. At this moment, under Lin Tian's will, he directly exploded. Rolling destructive aura surged out majestically. In just an instant, the entire chaos world shook. The sacred city of primal chaos was instantly drowned in destructive light waves. The whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu looked at this place with their divine consciousness from afar. They couldn't help but widen their eyes. So ruthless! The whooshing crocodile trembled again. At this moment, he finally understood why Lin Tian had let the Chaos Protector return to the sacred city of primal chaos. He also understood why he wanted them to stay away from the sacred city of primal chaos. It turned out that he wanted the Chaos Protector to self-destruct in the sacred city. He wanted a God Emperor to self-destruct. The purpose of leaving the sacred city of primal chaos was to avoid the destructive impact of the God Emperor's self-destruction. Yeah! The little Taichu trembled. He looked in the direction of the sacred city of primal chaos with his eyes wide open. With a rumble, the destructive aura in the sacred city of primal chaos filled the sky. The wind and the waves surged violently. Everything in the surroundings was destroyed one by one. Retreat again! Lin Tian called the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu to retreat again. The destructive impact of a God Emperor's self-destruction was too terrifying. Even though they were 1,000,000 feet away from the sacred city of primal chaos, they still felt threatened. In the blink of an eye, they retreated another 1,000,000 feet away. At this point, Even with the divine consciousness of a true God, they could barely see the scene in the sacred city of primal chaos. There, the destructive light waves and the vast ocean were tumbling. It was not until more than 100 breaths later that the destructive light wave weakened. As far as the eye could see, the entire sacred city of primal chaos, apart from the sacred city of primal chaos, had been completely destroyed. Even everything within 1,000,000 feet of the sacred city of primal chaos had disappeared completely. Ant! Beast! Chapter 1867. With an angry roar, the King of Chaos reformed his body and looked at Lin Tian in the distance. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. In the blink of an eye, the entire Primal Chaos sacred city, except for the Primal Chaos Holy Temple, which was protected by a special divine formation, was destroyed. All the Primal Chaos clan members, except for him, were dead. He's still alive? Far away, Wishing Crocodile was shocked. A God Emperor level powerhouse self-destructed. Furthermore, it was right in front of the Primal Chaos King. However, the Primal Chaos King actually managed to survive. Lin Tian was also surprised, but it was only a little. After all, he was much clearer than the Five Elements Crocodile about how terrifying the King of Primal Chaos was. He had the King of Primal Chaos physique and was already at the peak of the Emperor God realm. He had many world-shaking techniques. Even if he's alive, he's just an arrow at the end of its flight. He narrowed his eyes and took a few steps forward. He activated the Chaos Emperor Fist and smashed it down. Boom! A loud boom rang out, and the entire world trembled along with it. The next moment, with a bang, his fist landed on the King of Chaos' face and sent him flying. Chaos blood splattered in the sky. In the distance, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu were shocked. He sent the King of Chaos flying with his own strength? Wishing Crocodile stared. But in the next moment, when he and Little Taichu stepped out of the ruined Primal Chaos Holy City and scanned the Primal Chaos King with their divine sense, the shock disappeared. They discovered that although the Primal Chaos King had survived, he had suffered unimaginable injuries. At this time, he was at most comparable to a half-step heavenly god. Lin Tian was also a half-step divine god and had the strongest reincarnation body. Naturally, he was not weaker than the King of Chaos. It was normal for him to be able to send the King of Chaos flying with one punch. The King of Chaos was sent flying and tumbled far away. However, he quickly stood up again and glared at Lin Tian. His eyes were filled with anger. He was a peak god emperor who had lived for countless years. Now, he had been tricked by a half-step heavenly deity of a later generation. First, he had been lured onto the path of reincarnation. His 4 great protectors had fallen, and he had almost died. He had escaped with great difficulty. Now, he had been detonated by Lin Tian using a god emperor protector, causing him to receive a punch after being injured. He was enraged to the extreme, but at the same time, he was extremely aggrieved. He, a peak emperor god, the king of the primal chaos race, was actually punched in the face by a half-step heavenly god. You still dare to glare at me in this situation? You're asking for a beating. Lin Tian sneered as he took a step forward and arrived in front of him. Boom! The void trembled and shattered. He punched out with his primal chaos emperor fist again. Dragons and phoenixes appeared and intertwined at the tip of his fist. The king of chaos was very powerful. However, under the destructive waves of the god emperor that he had detonated, he was only left with the strength of a half-step heavenly god. He was not afraid at all. And the king of chaos was furious. He immediately propped up a primal chaos divine river. Stars revolved around it, intertwining with the most primitive king of chaos. King's territory, primal chaos celestial river. As the king's territory appeared, the void in all directions shook. Primal chaos divine power shrouded Lin Tian majestically. Lin Tianling smiled and did not dodge. He directly entered the primal chaos celestial river and took another step forward to the king of chaos. The king of chaos was immediately moved. You! Bang! There was a muffled sound, mixed with the cries of dragons and phoenixes. Lin Tian's fist landed on the King of Chaos' face again. With a poof, blood splattered and the King of Chaos was sent flying again. "Aunt, what did you do just now?" The King of Chaos could not help but ask as he steadied himself. His king's territory was useless against Lin Tian. Lin Tianji sneered and did not say anything. He waved his Chaos Emperor fist and attacked the King of Chaos again. Originally, if the King of Chaos was in his peak state, although his physique could restrain all king's territories and powerful bloodlines in the world, he could not resist the other party's king's territory because the difference in cultivation level was too great. However, now that the King of Chaos was severely injured and only had the strength of a half-step heavenly god, the power of the king's territory that he used was greatly reduced. Naturally, he did not take it seriously at all. He could completely make it ineffective. Boom! As he threw a punch, the void in all directions trembled, and then collapsed. With a bang, the King of Chaos was undoubtedly in trouble again. He was sent flying again by his punch. Chaos blood splattered in the void again. He did not stop and took another step forward, continuing to press forward. It was also at this moment that there was a rumbling sound. In the distance, waves of majestic divine power appeared one after another and approached this place. There's the aura of a divine emperor in it. Whooshing Crocodile's expression changed. Lin Tian looked at the boundless divine might that was approaching from afar. There were at least 100 of them. In an instant, he realized that these divine might must be from the super elites of the primal chaos tribe. Because he had detonated the Emperor God's protector and created an extremely terrifying destructive power here, these super elites of the primal chaos tribe sensed it and rushed over here. Among the 100 waves of divine power, he sensed at least a dozen auras at the divine emperor level. The rest of the auras were at least at the god-king level. It was extremely terrifying when combined. However, his expression did not change in the slightest. He waved his right hand and summoned 2 emperor corpses from the immortal emperor pagoda. They were the corpses of 2 of the 4 divine emperors of the chaotic tribe. He had destroyed their souls on the path of reincarnation and brought their corpses out of there. Enter the main body and fight with your souls. Next, kill as many chaotic tribe cultivators as they come, he said to Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu. Wishing Crocodile's eyes lit up immediately. Don't worry! It's a piece of cake! The corpses of God Emperor level experts were definitely great killing machines. Just the strength of the corpses alone could destroy everything below the God Emperor level. Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu controlled the 2 corpses with their souls. It did not matter if they were God Kings or God Emperors. They would kill them all. Without any hesitation, Wishing Crocodile's soul stepped out of its body and instantly entered one of the corpses. As soon as it entered and adapted, it could not help but throw a simple punch. It immediately shattered the vast void. This strength! It's so powerful! It exclaimed excitedly. On the other side, Little Taichu's soul entered the other God Emperor corpse. After adapting, it casually slapped its palm. Another crack rang out, and the vast expanse of space was reduced to rubble again. I'll leave the attackers to you. I'll keep your bodies first. Lin Tian now put Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu's bodies into the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Then, his gaze fell on the King of Chaos again. Without any hesitation, he attacked with his Emperor Fist. Almost at the same time, more than 100 auras approached from afar. They were more than 100 chaotic tribe cultivators. Each of them was tall and strong. Among them, there were 87 God Kings and 18 God Emperors. When they reached this place, the chaotic tribe cultivators were shocked. The chaotic sacred city had been completely destroyed. Chapter 1868. The hundreds of experts from the chaotic tribe were stunned. The chaotic sacred city had been razed to the ground. A half-step heavenly god human had punched their invincible king. It's the human that our king ordered us to suppress. Our king is being. He has something to do with the destruction of the sacred city? Don't worry about it. Help our king suppress him first. Go! Although these people were very shocked, they could tell what was going on. The king of their clan was being punched by a half-step heavenly god. They naturally couldn't just watch and do nothing. They all rushed towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not react. He punched the chaotic emperor fist again and again, landing on the king of chaos. The hundreds of experts charged toward Lin Tian. Their combined power was terrifying. Old fogies, stop right there! Whooshing Crocodile chuckled. He controlled the Emperor God corpse and blocked the way. He appeared in front of one of the experts and punched him. With a dong sound, it was just a simple punch, yet it directly shattered everything, blasting a divine king into pieces. Moreover, even his divine soul was destroyed. On the other side, little Taichu controlled another Emperor God corpse and punched a supreme being into pieces. Guardians, you! The hundreds of experts from the chaotic tribe were shocked when they saw Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu controlling the chaotic guardians that they were familiar with. However, they were not weak after all. They had good eyesight and soon found out something was wrong. No, the two guardians. I can't feel any signs of life. It's someone else. He's controlling the corpses of the two guardians. The two guardians have been killed? How can this be? They were shocked again. The guardians of their tribe were emperor gods. Now they were dead. Bang! There was a dull thud. Blood splattered in the distance. The king of chaos was sent flying again by Lin Tian. This shocked the hundreds of chaotic race experts who were charging at them. Help the king! Someone shouted. At this time, most of them rushed towards Lin Tian and the king of chaos. The scene before their eyes shocked them again and again. But now, they still had to help their king first. You can't go through! Whooshing Crocodile sneered. He controlled the corpse of the god emperor and punched out, crushing everything in its path. At the same time, the little Taichu did not stay idle. He controlled the god emperor's corpse and simply sent out a slap. With a cracking sound, the surrounding space was destroyed on the spot. Pooh! 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 Blood splashed out one after another. The dozens of experts who had rushed over were met with misfortune. Awesome! It feels so good! Whooshing Crocodile howled. The power of the Emperor God's corpse was too strong. Even though they could only use the power of the flesh shell of the corpse, it was already terrifying enough. It could destroy everything with a single punch or palm. Those below the level of Emperor God were no match for it. No matter if it was divine powers or God laws, they could not withstand the power of the Emperor God's flesh shell. Lin Tian glanced over. Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu were each controlling a Emperor God's corpse. Just as he had expected, they blocked everyone easily. He did not need to be distracted by the hundreds of experts who were rushing over. Emperor gods and Emperor gods are high and mighty existences to us. It's a pity that they can only be slaughtered now. He sighed. This was the truth. At their current level, divine kings and divine emperors were truly invincible. However, now that they had two corpses of divine emperors, divine kings and divine emperors were nothing. The pure strength of the corpses of divine emperors was enough to crush everything below the level of divine emperor. It was really difficult for anyone below the level of divine emperor to stop them. This was even more powerful than a pinnacle emperor weapon. After all, it required a terrifying amount of divine power to unleash the full power of an emperor weapon. Without that level of divine power, it was difficult for them to unleash the power of an emperor weapon. However, the pure power of the flesh shell of the Emperor God's corpse did not require anything else to activate it. After entering the body with one's divine soul, one could directly control the fist and palm. The pure power of the flesh shell was even more powerful and terrifying than the divine power of an emperor weapon. Let's end this quickly! He looked at King of Chaos and took a step forward. His Chaos Emperor fist was even more powerful. With a thud, the surrounding space shook and everything collapsed. King of Chaos raised his fist to meet the attack. He performed a great divine skill and collided with Lin Tian's Chaos Emperor fist. Boom! 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 The two of them clashed, shattering the void. After a while, with a bang, King of Chaos was sent flying again. Looking at Lin Tian's expression, he was even more shocked and angered. He was severely injured by the self-destruction of an emperor god at close range. He was only left with the power of a half-step heavenly god. Moreover, his emperor weapon had self-destructed on the reincarnation road. As for other magic treasures such as divine royal weapons and divine king weapons, they were nothing to him at all with his original power of a peak emperor god. Hence, under such circumstances, other than himself, he had no other magic treasures that could counter Lin Tian instantly. Now, he was only left with the strength of a half-step heavenly god. In the battle with Lin Tian, he was injured again and again. Damn it! He was shocked and angered at the same time. Although his strength had fallen to the level of a half-step heavenly god, he had once reached the level of a peak heavenly god. Moreover, he had the chaotic king body. Even if he had fallen to this level, killing an ordinary half-step heavenly god was no different from crushing an ant. However, now, he was completely suppressed by Lin Tian, a half-step heavenly god. After that, he thought about how Lin Tian was actually able to obtain that world seed, pass through the path of reincarnation without being affected, and render his chaotic king's territory ineffective, and this caused him to be even more shocked. At the same time, he was even more furious, and the killing intent in his eyes surged. Lin Tian naturally saw the killing intent in King of Chaos's eyes. However, his expression did not change at all. Dong! His action was simple and direct. He still threw out the Chaos Emperor fist with overwhelming force. King of Chaos met the attack and collided with Lin Tian again and again. He was sent flying again and again. On the other side, the group of experts from the chaotic tribe who were attacking Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu were all shocked when they saw this scene. Their king was sent flying again and again by a human. They wanted to rush over to help, but there was nothing they could do at this time. They could not break through the Emperor God corpses controlled by Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu. Moreover, they were facing the situation of death because the Emperor God corpses controlled by Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu were too terrifying. The pure power of flesh could easily destroy all of their attacks. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. In the center of the chaotic sacred city, Lin Tianyi swung the Chaos Emperor fist and cast the High Heaven Sword scripture at the same time. Dense High Heaven Sword force appeared immediately, and turned into a rain of swords that rushed towards King of Chaos. The sturdy void was penetrated. King of Chaos cast one great technique after another and met the attack head-on. The two collided, and the divine power rumbled. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. King of Chaos was heavily injured again and again. Enough! Ant, you must die! Chapter 1869. His soul light boiled and began to burn outside the King of Chaos's body, causing the void in this place to burn as well. Lin Tian immediately frowned. It seemed that the King of Chaos was not burning his divine soul to increase his strength at this time, but it gave him an even more ominous premonition. Without hesitation, he took a step forward and propped up the reincarnation diagram of the monarch region. He also propped up the divine Tao laws and combined them into his current strongest divine Tao reincarnation diagram. With this divine Tao reincarnation diagram, he pressed down on the King of Chaos. However, just as he stepped in front of the King of Chaos, a divine wave spread out and directly sent him flying. Beside the King of Chaos, as his divine soul light burned, a light door slowly opened, intertwining with strands of strange light. In the next moment, a light figure stepped out, with 12 pairs of wings on his back, emitting an extremely monstrous aura. In the next moment, he turned into a man in black armor. He still had 12 pairs of wings on his back. Lin Tian's expression changed immediately. This was the terrifying existence that the King of Chaos, Grand Supreme, and the others had jointly summoned back then. Facing this person, his body could not help but tremble, because the aura that the other party was emitting was really too terrifying. At the same time, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu's expressions changed, as did the other chaotic tribe experts. This is. Some divine emperors of the chaotic tribe were terrified. Looking at the middle-aged man in black armor with 12 pairs of wings on his back, they felt an aura that was even more terrifying than their king's. In an instant, these chaotic tribe experts stopped what they were doing and looked in shock at the 12-winged man summoned by the King of Chaos. The black-armored man's body gradually became more solid, and the light door behind him disappeared. His gaze landed directly on Lin Tian, and there was a trace of light in his extremely deep eyes, but also a trace of cold light, as if he could devour everything. "Why did you call me again after so long?" the man said coldly. Without a doubt, this was directed at the King of Chaos. The King of Chaos bowed and said, "Sacred Envoy, I originally wanted to directly hand over the World Seed after suppressing him, so that you don't have to do it personally. However, there was an accident, and now I have to trouble you to do it personally." When he was in the celestial region, when he, the Grand Supreme, and the others joined forces to summon the incarnation of the black-armored man, the World Seed no longer belonged to him, the Grand Supreme, and the others. Even if they obtained it, they would have to hand it over. However, he also had some other ideas in his mind. After suppressing Lin Tian, he could temporarily use his divine sense to enter Lin Tian's body and comprehend the World Seed for a period of time. He believed that this would also bring him great benefits, and then he would present the World Seed. Unfortunately, Lin Tian, who was only a half-step heavenly god, had made him suffer again and again. At this point, he had no other choice but to burn his spirit and use a certain technique to summon the black-armored man again. He did not think of suppressing Lin Tian to comprehend the World Seed for a period of time after burning his spirit to become stronger. This was because Lin Tian was too strange. If he had other tricks up his sleeves, it would be difficult for him to deal with him after burning his spirit. After that, he would have to burn his spirit again to summon the black-armored man. Burning his spirit twice consecutively would have a great impact on him, and it would leave a great disaster for him in the future. He did not dare to take this risk now. The black-armored sacred envoy was shrouded in black light. He did not say anything, but his eyes were indifferent. He lived in a higher world, and the celestial region could not be compared to the chaotic world and the celestial region. There were very powerful rules of heaven and earth there, which made it difficult for him to enter the lower world. If he wanted to come down, he would have to rely on others to create a special saint array by burning their spirit to summon him. Moreover, this method could only allow his incarnation to come down, and his original body could not come down. Of course, he could also forcefully enter the lower world from the upper world, but he would have to pay a great price. This price was not something he wanted to bear, and it was also something he could not bear. His gaze fell on Lin Tian. His eyes were extremely cold and deep, as if he had seen through everything in the world. "Where does that man live? Tell me everything about him." His voice was extremely cold. This voice seemed to be mixed with a terrifying demonic power, causing Lin Tian's eardrums to almost explode, and his spirit to become unstable. However, there was no fear on his face. Instead, there was a hint of ridicule and mockery in his eyes. "It seems like you suffered a great loss last time." He could naturally guess who, that man, the black-armored man, was talking about. He must be referring to an old drunkard. Looking at the black-armored man's expression, he was sure that the black-armored man must have suffered a great loss at the hands of an old drunkard. The black-armored man had 12 pairs of wings on his back, and countless divine halos circled around him. His eyes became even colder, as if he had recalled some things from the past. His eyes were filled with cruel killing intent. In the next moment, he reached out his hand and grabbed at Lin Tian. Clearly, he wanted to suppress Lin Tian and take the World Seed. Then, he would search Lin Tian's sea of consciousness for everything about an old drunkard. The speed of his hand was not fast at all. In fact, it could even be said to be relatively slow. However, its aura was extremely terrifying. The surroundings instantly fell silent. Lin Tian immediately felt an intense pain in his body. It was as if he would collapse in the next moment. The black-armored man's aura was even more powerful than the chaotic king at his peak. It was truly unbearable. In the distance, the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu's expressions changed. They immediately rushed over to help. Although they knew that they could not stop the black-armored man, they still rushed towards the black-armored man's hand. However, they were immediately caught by Lin Tianyi. "Do you really think you can defeat me?" Seeing the black-armored man's hand getting closer and closer, Lin Tian felt as if his spirit was about to be torn apart. However, he was still not afraid. The expression on the black-armored man's face didn't change at all. Looking at Lin Tian, his expression was cold and emotionless. The pressure of the gigantic palm didn't decrease, and his aura became even stronger. Clearly, Lin Tian's attitude towards him didn't make him happy. "Your stinking face is really annoying," Lin Tian said again. As he spoke, he took out the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. He summoned a ball of light and threw it at the black-armored man. The black-armored man's hand did not decrease in momentum. He did not seem to care about the ball of light that Lin Tian threw at him. Even god-emperors were as weak as ants in front of him. Why would he care about something that a half-step heavenly god had summoned? The black-armored man's hand slammed down on the ball of light. The ball of light was about the size of a human head. Under the pressure of his palm, it instantly cracked open. A dark gray mist floated out. There was no terrifying wave of energy or aura. In the blink of an eye, it contaminated the black-armored man's arm. "This is... A blood-curdling scream rang out. The black-armored man's cold expression instantly disappeared without a trace. His entire face contorted as his body trembled violently. Chapter 1870. The 12-winged saint emissary's body trembled as the dark gray mist touched his body. His face was distorted. "It's related to reincarnation. Damn it, how did you—" The man screamed. "Saint emissary!" The king of chaos's expression changed. The other divine kings and divine emperors of the chaotic tribe also changed their expressions and trembled. These people had all felt the terror of the 12-winged sacred envoy. Even the kings of their clans treated him with respect. He was far stronger than their kings, and he might have already surpassed the level of Emperor God. But now, he was screaming so miserably. "This is something from the abyss!" The whooshing crocodile stared. "Boy, you brought this thing out!" It and little Tai Chu had followed Lin Tian through the reincarnation road, and they had left the reincarnation road from the abyss. Naturally, it recognized this thing and could guess how terrifying it was. After all, it was something at the end of the reincarnation road. It had never thought that Lin Tian would actually bring something like this out. Even little Alpha Primordium couldn't help but widen his eyes, shocked by the scene before him. Lin Tian's expression froze. This 12-winged saint emissary knew that the dark gray mist was related to reincarnation. "This is the person who controls the power of reincarnation," he thought to himself. But then, he shook his head. "No, if he controls the power of reincarnation, how can he not block this thing? The person who controls the power of reincarnation is stronger than him." The 12-winged saint emissary screamed. It was hard to imagine that a terrifying being who seemed to have surpassed the Emperor God level was trembling. His expression was painful and filled with shock and anger. The dark gray fog on his arm did not have any terrifying fluctuations, nor did it have the slightest terrifying aura. However, it was like a peerless, ferocious beast hunting its prey. His arm rotted and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After which, the dark gray fog continued to surge toward his body. Boom! Divine radiance that overflowed into the heavens erupted from his divine body, and a power that surpassed the laws of the divine Tao surged. It drowned out the dark gray mist in a futile attempt to extinguish it. However, it was completely useless. The dark gray mist was terrifying to the extreme, and it directly annihilated everything. "Damn it! How can you have this thing? Impossible! Impossible!" the man roared. As an existence that was far stronger than a peak divine emperor, Even the primal Chaos King had to be respectful in front of him. Previously, he was calm and indifferent, ignoring everything, but now, he had completely lost his composure. Everything was because this dark gray fog was too terrifying. It was a reincarnation substance. Lin Tian retreated very far away, feeling a little shocked. Even though he knew from the start that the reincarnation substance was extremely terrifying and was an almost invincible killing weapon, and felt that it should be able to cause the 12-winged sacred emissary, who was far stronger than a god emperor, to suffer, he still couldn't help but feel a little shocked when he saw the scene that he had expected. However, in the next moment, the shock in his heart disappeared as he thought of another problem. You know that this thing is related to reincarnation. Is there an existence behind you that controls the power of reincarnation? Who is that person? He looked at the man and asked. The primal Chaos King had an ancient talisman with the power of reincarnation. He guessed that there was a powerful existence behind him that controlled the power of reincarnation, and this person was obviously on the same side as the primal Chaos King. His cultivation was far stronger than the primal Chaos King, and he also recognized that the dark gray fog was related to reincarnation. He felt that this person might know something about that existence. The 12-winged sacred emissary was entangled by the reincarnation substance, and he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. A lowly ant dares to dream of such an existence. Ah! As he said this, he let out another scream. The reincarnation substance didn't have any aura fluctuation, and he couldn't feel any fear, but it was ferocious and frightening. With a whoosh, more than half of the 12-winged sacred emissary's body was annihilated. Then, the reincarnation substance didn't disperse, but continued to surge toward the remaining body, causing him to let out an even more shrill scream. Sacred emissary, this! The primal Chaos King couldn't help but tremble when he saw this scene, and his eyes couldn't help but twitch. He knew very well how terrifying the sacred emissary that he summoned was. Even though it was just an incarnation, it was still extremely terrifying. It could crush a peak divine emperor to death with one finger, but now it ended up like this in the hands of Lin Tian, a half-divine god. This thing has something to do with reincarnation? He looked at the dark gray fog on the 12-winged sacred emissary's body, and his heart trembled. He completely lost his composure as a divine emperor. Ah! The screams continued, and the 12-winged sacred emissary's body fell to the ground. He kept rolling and struggling with all his might. However, it was useless. He couldn't break free from the reincarnation substance's entanglement. How can a lowly ant have such a thing? How can you have it? He roared. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't control such a thing. Once he touched it, he would be in bloody trouble. But now, a half-divine god actually had such a large mass of reincarnation substance. I have a good character. Reincarnation likes it. Lin Tian smiled. The 12-winged sacred emissary was stunned for a moment, and then he roared in pain. Scram! This was only an incarnation of his. At this moment, he was struggling fiercely. He used all kinds of methods, and power that surpassed divine Tao laws surged, trying to destroy this reincarnation substance. He didn't want this incarnation to be destroyed like this. After all, although this wasn't his main body, once it was destroyed, it would affect his main body's strength. At least 1,000th of his divine power would be lost. This 1,000th didn't sound like a big deal, but for an existence like him, 1,000th of his divine power was absolutely terrifying. He would need to spend endless years to cultivate back. However, everything he did was useless. Reincarnation was above all. His power was too weak in front of the reincarnation substance, and he couldn't do anything at all. He roared as he struggled, and his eyes were red. His body was constantly being devoured by the reincarnation substance, disappearing bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, only half of his head was left. D*mn ants! And that D*mn man! If my main body descends, I'll make you wish you were dead! This person roared coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the last half of his head directly shattered and completely disappeared. At the same time, the reincarnation substance also disappeared after destroying his body. Lin Tian was moved, not because of the disappearance of the reincarnation substance, but because of the 12-winged sacred emissary's last words. "Not my main body? Is it an incarnation?" He was shocked. The person summoned by the King of Chaos was only an incarnation? At the same time, Wishing Crocodile and Little Taichu were also shocked by this. This, just an incarnation, had such divine power. How terrifying would his main body be? Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of air being torn apart was heard. In another direction, the King of Chaos moved. He didn't charge toward Lin Tian. His entire body was covered in interweaving chaotic light, and he directly fled into the distance. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.